Hello, Globebusters. Yes, of course they're serious. You do? You have? No kidding. Uh-huh. Oh, they'll cure your globitis this week. Thank you. We got one!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Globebusters.
What are you supposed to be, some kind of a cosmonaut?
No, we're exterminators.
And now, here's your host.
And welcome everybody to Globebusters inside the Flatten The Curve documentary. I'm your host, Bob, Xanadude60, and we are back with another show for you today on Sunday. And, you know, as I told you guys previously, we were going to go ahead and return doing the main show on Sundays and then doing the Rockfin show on Wednesdays, which will be the Wednesday evening show, and that will be probably called something like Globebusters Tech. And, you know, like I said, that's where we're going to look at the more technical side of Flat Earth. We will definitely be having people on as guests, like the people that we are having on today. Those people who are experts in their field and definitely carry a lot of weight because of their training and all the experience that they have. We love people like that. That was one of the best things that, you know, most people can do is have an expert series to come in and shed light on what they know, because it makes it pretty hard for the Globers to, you know, they're going to call everybody a liar anyway, but you know, there are other people out there that are going to say, you know what, this does make sense. And this, you know, when you have the credentials behind you, sometimes that's good for some people. And actually it's good for a lot of people, but other people, not so much. So we're trying to cover it all. And so that's what we're going to be doing on Wednesday nights. So let me go ahead and introduce the cast today. Jeran from Jeranism is not going to be with us today because he is off at a family to-do thing with his in-laws. So sorry about that, Jeran. I'm sure you'd rather be here. And let's see, Austin is off getting married. Actually, he got married yesterday. So he's now had joined the bonds of matrimony, which is awesome. So he and Kai are kind of on their honeymoon or starting it or whatever. And John TheMorgile is not here either, but we have a whole other panel for you today, in addition to our guests from the movie. And first up, we have, well, let's take Eru Landucci. Hey, Eru, what's up?
Hello, Bob. Hello, everyone. Waiting for learning something new. It's going to be a really exciting show. I think this topic is something that a lot of people, you know, love or really like technical stuff. I'm one of them. So, you know, having the privilege to talk directly with pilots and engineering and things like that for me is very exciting. So thank you for having me on.
Awesome. We're very glad you are here for sure. And we also have with us today one other Globebuster that hasn't been with us for a while, but he's been kind of doing the family thing, hanging out with them, and I certainly don't blame him for that. We have with us Ben, Taboo Conspiracy. How you doing today, Ben?
Good. Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, I've been. I was just actually working on a video before I got on with you about the shadows issue. I must have struck a nerve with the. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that upward globe shadow proof that I've been discussing lately, but it struck a nerve with some of the propagandists out there, and so there's some videos against me. So I have to address them and then address this this new information from the architect, and I think it should be good, at least get the debate rolling. So I'm excited for that. Should have that done right after Globebusters today. So, but thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome, Ben. Well, from what I saw, it looked it made a lot of sense. It made perfect sense. And we could even play that video for the panel here at some point during the show and see what they think. But to me, it made perfect sense. And this was something that Jeran brought up, I don't know, years ago, literally, about how the sun should strike, like houses, and why doesn't it shine in and hit the upstairs ceilings and stuff like that. And the animation, I think, shows that, pretty clearly how that should actually work. So I don't see a problem. What were some of the problems that they spotted with that, or were they just being vicious?
Well, Simon Dan, of course, is just a moron, and he just comes out and just, slaps his head and calls it nighttime and misses the entire point. But Wolfie, he supposedly filmed the upward shadow from his cockpit. I actually think he is just using the refraction from the window to do that. But more importantly, he forgets the fact that if he's filming an upward shadow, he missed the upward bulge shadow. That would be the definitive proof either way. But that's kind of what I'm talking about anyway in the video that's coming up.
Okay. Very interesting. All righty then. Okay, so let's move on then to let's see, got you. Well, I got a little disorganized here. I'm getting my stuff together, guys. Don't mind me. So we got Iru, we got Taboo, and we got me, and that's cool. All right, so and we also have with us deep inside the rabbit hole, David. How you doing today, David?
Hey, doing good, Bob. Thanks for having me. And Ben's work for everyone here knows Ben's work, but you didn't know there's a button on the app now under the web button. Scroll down, and there's a experiments, and it's all Taboo Ben's work. So a lot of people ask for his stuff, so I put it all together, and it's a direct link, so you have it on the app. And I'm adding a whole bunch of new features to the app, but one of them I'm adding is a new page. We have the frequently asked questions, we have the more resources. We're going to have a homeschooling page where it's going to be all information with homeschool. And one of the top things on that page is going to be I'm working with Alex, Conspiracy Music Guru, and we're turning his songs into children's books.
And wow.
It looks amazing already. So the kids can read with their parents, and then they listen to the song a bunch of times, and they can read again. The song's in their head. It's going to teach kids how to read. Basically the artwork, and we're just cartooning screenshots of him, for each page. It's looking fantastic. And the first one out is going to be Gravity, and it's going to be amazing. So
awesome. That's cool. Cami's also working with somebody that is doing children's books, and that's pretty neat. And they'll be starting, a new series here on Wednesday nights, but they're definitely working on some children's material. And I think that's great. Got to get them started in it young, right?
Anybody that has, children's material related to flat earth and, our world that would like a link on that homeschooling page, happy to put it in there. No charge for anybody. It's just going to be a resource, because I get emails all the time. People saying, I'm homeschooling my kids, or I'm going through the globe lessons now. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to teach them. And, my suggestion is teach them both and then ask them to make up their own minds. And, kids aren't dumb. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. All right. Beautiful. All right, guys. So today, I'm sure that a lot of you have probably already seen the Flatten the Curve documentary. I think it was released, 3 weeks, maybe a month ago. It's been a few weeks anyway since it was released. I also released it at noon today on our channel in Globebusters, and it's up, I think a couple thousand views already. So that's cool, and very, very favorable response. And this is one of those things that I think is really cool. People making these documentary type films, and keeping it more in the control of the flat earthers, so that the things that happen to Jeran and I don't happen. As far as misinterpreting or purposely trying to obfuscate, what we said. So that's always a good thing. But you know what? Lessons learned. It still brought a lot of people to flat earth. But I think that this is a good documentary. And I think that we're, starting to have quite a good collection of documentary creators, and I'm all for it. These are really, really good, have a nice professional feel to them. There are some edges that are a little bit rough, but overall it's pretty good, especially for a first attempt on this. And I think it's good. So the creator of this video is a gentleman by the name of Vikka. Is it Draziv? Did I pronounce it right?
Yes, Bob. A big hello to you and everyone on the panel and to all the viewers. It's a great pleasure to be here with you guys, man. Really appreciate the invite, Bob.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. And, Dave really liked it. Dave was passing it all around your documentary when it first was released. And I was amazed. It was really going through all the chat groups. It was just kind of everywhere. And so I'm really thrilled that it's doing well. And I guess there are some platforms that it's over 1 million hits. Is that right?
Right, on Real Truth Seekers. Really, thank you, David, for all the promotion, man. That's really awesome. It helps everybody for the truth and the RTS, right, Bob? I'm a part of the team. It's an independent site, like totally uncensored, shadow banned, because YouTube depends on the material they shadow ban you. So it's like a one place for all the conspiracy together, a real exposure, so it's easy to just link your videos. You can make a channel. I would encourage all creators, even David, even brother Iru and Taboo Conspiracy, and you yourself, and as a Globebuster team. So you just have to make a channel and link your YouTube video. That's it. So it just reaches any possible platform that YouTube and Facebook try to normally shadow ban, because they're very picky about many things. So they don't even want to pay.
When you say link your YouTube, does it mirror all your videos automatically? You just upload it to YouTube and then it ends up on your site also, like Odyssey does?
Right.
Fantastic. I'm in.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I've left you a link in the chat. So already a few thousand people will be watching this show right now on RTS. So.
Oh, that's nice. Excellent. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Get Globebusters out there because, it's funny. It's been, I've been in Flat Earth for 7 years now, right? Jeran and I started together 7 years ago. And, we went to Globebusters. I've been to all the conferences and all this stuff. And it's amazing how many people there really are in Flat Earth. I mean, I didn't know and had never heard of any of you before this documentary, and just like, I'm thinking, how in the world could I have been so isolated, really? But, I suppose it's probably kind of naive of me to think that I know all the millions and millions of flat earthers out there, but, you just kind of feel like you do sometimes, but
we are more of a Facebook community. That's why. So we got together through Facebook, our groups. You are part of our two of the groups, World Flat Earth Association and Fern. Yes. So that's how we got the whole team, the production, the participants. It was one place, everything there. With time, everything got together there. And that's why we have Flatten the Curve.
Yep. Yeah. Facebook is actually good for some things, I suppose. But when YouTube started its ridiculous censorship on everything, and that's one of the reasons why we went to a Rockfin. We're actually broadcasting on 3 platforms today. We are broadcasting on YouTube, Rockfin, and DLive. So get some more people out there on that. But YouTube, if they're going to continue with what they're doing, and I have every reason to believe that they will, because they're part of the elitists that are trying to shut this down and are trying to propagate this lie, the lie about flat earth, not being true, and all kinds of other truths, not the least of which of what's going on within the world today, right? And all the VA XX type stuff. But yeah, they're just ridiculous. So, okay, Vikka, well, let me go ahead and move on to another gentleman that is on your panel. We have Mark Hollander, and Mark is an author. And Mark, could you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself? Oops, and you are muted, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay. I apologize for that. I was
no worries.
Out the dog barking in my backyard. So anyway, yeah, Bob, you and I previously met. I think one time I went to one of those conferences back in 2018 with Shelley Lewis and we at the Denver conference in 2000. I think it was 2018.
Yep.
And we Shelly was actually a host with us on Ferret Radio Live, which is our YouTube channel, and my show is called Hoodwinked into the Age of Insanity. And we just kind of happenstance as far as what we, like people like Rob Taylor. It's such a blessing to have all of these ex-military experts who've actually created and helped run navigational equipment like radar, sonar, gyroscopes, periscopes, and but these tools in this movie, Flatten the Curve, has never been quite explained like this before. These guys are in high military positions, and so I was really blessed to be part of this Flatten the Curve documentary, and I was one of the 3 authors. And my book was actually released in May of 2018. And no, I don't like the cover to the book, like a flying disc going through space. And if I could recreate it today, obviously I would change the cover. And I've kind of been throwing it around to do so, but it's not really that important to me, more so than what the message represents, in my book.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's excellent. Go ahead, Ben.
The book is findable on the app under the books page. Just click the button, and it's the 5th one down.
I do appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Beautiful. See, it's good to have David in here. He puts everything to that app, and that app is amazing. It really is. He just keeps making it better and better and better. And I know that people give you a hard time about the app, David, but it is one of the most powerful tools that we have in the Flat Earth community. And that is indisputable, especially for getting out the word in the way that we want it to be distributed, and not the way.
I'm shocked at all the people that say that the app is what woke them up. The app is waking up their friends. I mean, I can't believe that I made it. And you know what? And I have to surrender to the Lord above, because I got the information and I just put it out there. This app is above what I actually could do. And I'm going to say, the creator gave me the ability to put this out there. It's getting better and better, and it hurts nobody. It's $3. Okay. It's $3. So even if you hate it, it's only $3.
Amen, right, brother.
I'm sure we probably all have it. So you're preaching to the choir here. All right. So let's move on to our last panelist who is with us. And that is Rob Taylor. And Rob, I know a little bit about you because you and I have probably the most in common. I don't remember what kind of engineer you said you were, but I'm an electrical engineer. I am also a pilot. And I worked with radar in the Air Force. I actually did the installation and repair of it, and have all kinds of amazing stories to tell about stuff like that. I have my radar endorsement on my first class commercial radio telephone, and just kind of been in electronics and communications primarily my whole life. I also worked in satellite and microwave, believe it or not. And that's one of the things that, it was both difficult to let go of the idea of satellites and easy to come up with another way that they could work. So it kind of helped me in 2 different ways. So Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're a West Point graduate. My goodness, that is some fabulous credentials. You and Shelley Lewis, right? Are both West Point graduates, yes?
That is correct. Shelley has the unique history that she was allowed to graduate, so she finished her degree, but she did not move into the Army as an officer. So that's her story. I did, following West Point, which is a 4-year degree, I did the full 18 years. So now I'm fully retired, everything X, Y, and Z. So to answer the question, what was my degree at the academy? There's a degree they call engineering management, and really what it is, it's engineering business management, but it requires the full course of the basic engineering. So I studied the basic physics, the electronic physics side, which is 101 and then 102. Then I studied the engineering physics course, which is the forces and tensions course. Went through that course. And my minor there was electric engineering. So I did the 5-course minor on the electric engineering. and you're going to love this. I was on the team that built a railgun. Literally, I built a railgun at the academy, and I fired it one time, started a fire in the background, in the cushion that we fired it into. Interesting how that works out. So I've got that experience, and then I did go through Army flight school, which is that was more or less that was like an associate's course in aviation, all about aeronautical physics and the engine and how the turbine engine works, etc. That was literally going from West Point to an associate degree in aviation turbine mechanics and aeronautical physics. So there's 4 different physics courses that I've gone through. So that's a pretty good look at physics and all the chemistry that goes along with basic engineering, as you understand. So when here's my history. When my colleague told me, Rob, I obviously we all laugh at the flat Earth concept, and my buddy John, he's in Houston. He told me that, Rob, that's okay. You don't have to look at flat Earth, but until you do, you will remain a slave to the matrix. And so I want to point this out. By then, as I point out in the documentary, by then I had already seen all the corruption that is, and I mean at the higher levels, that we know exist. For example, I was working for Army, and then the second half of my career, the Army attached me over to Department of State to work at embassies in the sub-Saharan Africa region. So I was fully certified. Literally, I was fully certified as an Army attaché to the Department of State for the Africa region. I was an embassy officer for the Africa region. And that's when Benghazi happened. And I thought, hold a sec, I know too much. I know how this works. That should never have happened. When the Secretary of State said, what does it matter anyway? Well, she was functionally my boss. So I looked at that and I said, you know what? I don't work for that anymore. So here I am back on the city streets, OCS. I'm back at OCS on the city streets, right? So here I am. But then I found the flat Earth. Literally the month before my final month of the Army is when I found flat Earth, and it literally when I started looking at it, it only took me 3 minutes as an engineer, as a physicist, as a guy with his mind wide open. Literally 3 minutes of research later, I was convinced, and that was it. There was no going back.
How far does that railgun shoot? How far does the railgun shoot?
I'll tell you, it depends on the power behind it. It depends on the capacitor. The bigger the power base, the further it can reach out. And those things do fire line of sight. Literally, they'll go for miles. Like 100 miles I saw on one documentary.
100 miles. That's right.
The nozzle isn't
it's far beyond any curve.
The nozzle isn't slightly curved downwards to compensate for the curvature.
Exactly not. There is no curvature whatsoever. They put their crosshair on whatever they want to hit, and it reaches out there nearly instantaneously. The railgun is the fastest firing projectile that exists. There's no gunpowder mix that could match it, as we know.
Yeah, it fires the speed of the projectile is something like Mach 4.7 or something like that when it comes out at the end of that thing. And it has around 100 to 115 mile range, because I actually did a show on it a couple years back, and that is absolutely amazing. And you know, they don't talk about, you know, how it targets, but obviously the only thing that you ever have to take into consideration as far as curvature would be how much the projectile itself drops, you know, as it's being, you know, lobbed out. So you'd be lobbing and hitting targets. But as far as following curvature, obviously that's never going to happen. And they only fire at what they can see.
Right. And that goes Mach 4.5 or whatever it goes. And it's pretty streamlined, you would say. You know, if it was blunt, it wouldn't work. But then we have the garbage can that we call the space shuttle that goes Mach 25.
Right.
Okay. I mean,
exactly.
It's absolute. I mean, the railgun itself proves the Earth is flat, and then the space shuttle proves that NASA's fake. Game over. There's no other argument.
Game over. Absolutely. And Dave, I want to thank you for bringing up the homeschool. I did homeschool my two daughters. Homeschool is number one. I know a lot of homeschoolers where I live here in the Salt Lake City area. There are massive homeschool networks. And I want to let you know, I don't know if you know this, but Eric Dubé, he created a Flat Earth children's book. So you can look that up.
It's actually in the app. It's in the app.
All right, you've already got it. Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's
so,
fabulous.
Anybody that has homeschooling resources, send them over to me, info at the Flat Earth Podcast, and I'm going to build this page. It's going to be up on the next update within a couple of weeks.
I love what you're doing with Alex, the Flat Earth, our conspiracy music guru. His material is excellent. That's fabulous.
Wait until you see this book. We're not arguing. We're just going back and forth. Should we use this? We use this filter. We should use that. It looks amazing. No matter which one we pick, it's going to be the best teaching tool for not only to teach the truth to kids, but it's going to teach them how to read faster because they're going to have the song in their head. They're going to be looking at the words and they're going to learn how to read. It's already trending on the New York Times bestseller list in my head.
Oh yeah, there you go. Hey, by the way, I was talking with a Chinese woman last night. Just happened to be talking with a Chinese woman. There's my 3-year-old boy, and I was showing her the glass water in a cup on the table. I said, "Is that water moving?" And I kept asking her, "Is the water moving?" "It's not, is it?" And my boy kept saying, "No, it's not moving. It's not moving." So I'm starting my boy off at 3 years old. Exactly what you're saying.
Perfect.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's smart. You have to get to them before the school system does, because it obviously the way they do it is so incredibly subtle. Well, it's pretty blatant, when they first start you out, but after that, it's just subtlety after subtlety that they build on, because otherwise, how in the world else would you possibly be able to get people to react literally almost with violence when they hear the topic of flat Earth come up, right?
Exactly. Violence. Yes.
The programming is so deep. But what I tell people is teach them both. To say, well, this is what I believe, and you show them, whatever, Flat Earth Man, whatever you want to do, and he goes, and this is what they teach in the schools, and you show them exactly what they teach in school. And then you say, what do you think? And I think a 3-year-old could go, that's retarded.
I agree totally,
Absolutely.
David. We do that with our children, just so you know.
Right. And Ben has like 14 children, so listen to him.
Yeah, homeschooler of 5 children. So we always leave it up to them to figure it out. I don't care what they believe, as long as they do it with logic, with reason, follow the evidence, that kind of thing. That's what's important to me.
Yeah, I totally agree, Ben. And I think that's a great thing that you're in a position to be able to do that. Of course, my 3 kids are pretty much grown up now. Jeran, my youngest, is 18, and he's going to be working. Well, he has actually been working for Epic Games for the last few years, but he's going to be doing an internship there and working full time here very shortly, which is awesome. So it's kind of a dream job for an 18-year-old. He gets to work for the prestige gaming company, and what he does is he hacks stuff. He's a hacker, so he looks for security breaches, and it's kind of cool. He's in hog heaven. All right, so anyway,
I want to second, if you don't mind, let me second that. As Ben was saying, and so was Dave, it's absolutely clear when we show people both sides of it. The globe fails on any analysis. It doesn't matter how shallow or how deep we go. Every aspect of the globe will fail once we look at it. Once we analyze it with common sense, the globe fails. Water doesn't move in a cup. There's no curve on the top of water. The horizon doesn't curve. It's obvious when we point out the topic, when we point out the subject, anybody can see it. A 3-year-old can see it.
And for people out there, they're like, I'm afraid to go up against anybody, family, friends, strangers, whatever. And I'm like, why would you be afraid? The stack, it's so unfair, the advantage that we have, because there's not a single thing. The globe is just an embarrassment on every level, and the flat earth is just common sense and right in front of your face. So anybody that has any knowledge about this, just a minimal, a medium amount of knowledge, you will win every time. Yeah. Unless, of course, you're going up against Fight the Fat Shirt and and those idiots. But I say don't even talk to those guys.
Right. Well, that's because they will come up and say, well, science says, whatever. And they, of course, they can sit there and quote what science says all day long and, feel like they've won because, it's just, they're just parroting what science says, right? Never have they really considered what science says or what it's about or how it was derived or anything like that. Again, it's just like the rest of the world. We take it at face value and believe it. And until we have something come along like flat Earth or, several other things that are just unbelievably obvious, like what's going on these days, people are just going to remain asleep and they're not going to wake up to this stuff. So in a way, I think this chaos is doing a lot of good for the sleeping. It's definitely waking a lot of people up.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
The simple, to put it in simple layman's terms, if water doesn't bend and 70% of the Earth's surface is water, this fact by definition makes the Earth flat. Remember, not a single time has curvature ever been measured over large bodies of standing water. If you put it in a simple concept, usually the simplest concepts are the most effective ones, and it's usually closer to what the truth is.
Absolutely.
One more thing.
The globers like to throw the word out science a lot, but there is zero science that they do, because, for example, one of the comments was, hey guys, instead of making documentary, why don't you show us the edge of Antarctica? Yeah, they want to divert people to Antarctica, to the moon, to the Mars, but they don't want to face the real science, what we are showing them, so it's just...
Yeah, 100%. And there's different types of information that'll wake up different people. And one of the minor holes that we had was people like, where are the professionals? Where is all the military in on it? Are all the pilots in on it? And this documentary, whatever you want to call it, fills that gap. I've had friends that literally would not listen to anything. I got them to watch this, and then they're calling me up like, what the hell's going on? And now the bug is in their head. So, before we just had, I would always refer people just to Mark Sargent interviewed some Navy guys and stuff. And those are great interviews, but this is in a nice package. It's visually, entertaining. It's not too long. And I don't know, it's really filling a hole. And it's, I have, I call it my Flat Earth crash course, which is on my website, flatearthdave.com. And it's also in the app under the Flat Earth movies. I have a series of, 10 movies. I have yours in the #1 spot, because start with that and then you're hooked.
No, I
really appreciate that.
I just want to add that I think it's fantastic, because I love these subject matter series, and I've always been now trying to promote more professionals and things, as with like the F-16 pilot, things like that. These are people that should deal with the alleged curvature of the Earth on a daily basis. And when I was first investigating flat Earth, I thought that there would be these people that they deal with it on a daily basis. They'd always have to account for curvature, always have to account for the Earth's spin, things like that. Nobody does. No professional actually accounts for any of that. And that's enough evidence to end the debate right there. Because if it were real, if the globe was real, if it was spinning 1,000 miles per hour, the professionals out there in the military, all surveyors, radar operators, pilots, helicopter pilots, everybody would have to account for it, would have to adjust for it, have to plan for it. It never happens. That proves the Earth is flat and it's stationary.
Justin Harvey, one of the great truth seeker, he's out there doing the arm stuff, all the stuff that we can't talk about here. Great flat earther, and he's confronted astronauts and embarrassed them with bubbles in space. He recently was on a flight, and he went to the pilots afterwards and asked them, do they adjust for curvature? You should hear the excuses that these pilots make. They're just making up stuff. And he goes, well, wait, you're saying this, so you do adjust for it or you don't? And literally he had these pilots just mumbling. They're like, no, we don't. And they didn't. You could tell that they never ever thought about it. So amazing. It's just every day I'm blown away.
They don't want to lose their jobs, They don't want to lose their jobs. So for sure, there are people like Rob and many other people, and we even have for Flatten the Curve too. We have lots of people. We are just scratching the surface with this documentary. Actually, Flatten the Curve is only a trailer. So
yeah. Fantastic.
So there's going to be many more. Go ahead, Rob.
We got many more. We've got many more, at least 4 different directions. This is a wagon wheel. We can make sequels in at least 5 different directions in depth, by the way. So we got this all planned out, working on it. Back to the pilots that will mumble. Let me tell you this. A pilot doesn't necessarily have any technical, it doesn't have any engineering understanding. They have technical understanding, but it is limited. So when a pilot starts mumbling, it's because he's trying to sound technical, he or she, but they literally don't have the basis of understanding. Many of us in the Flat Earth community, we know more than the pilot does. All the pilot knows is how to operate his aircraft and keep it in the air. Literally, that their technical specialty ends there, unless they have other background knowledge. So we, on our side, because we study the Flat Earth community, member of the Flat Earth community, we literally know more about the subject than the pilot does. So they'll start mumbling, making up bullshit because they don't understand it, because they don't have the basis of knowledge. And when it comes back to science, when people say, well, what does the science say? I throw back to them, I say, well, 2 + 2 is science. Literally, 2 + 2 is science. And we confirm 2 + 2 = 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. That's hypothesis, experiment, observation, conclusion. That is the scientific method, which Flat Earth follows. As long as we follow the Flat Earth, as long as we follow the scientific method of observation, conclusion, then that is science. That is science. All we have to do is show people that what is the science. We don't have to trust people. We can do science ourselves. That's where the real observation happens.
Yeah. I go ahead, Dave.
No, just real quick, Vic, next time you talk, just back off your mic a little bit. You're super hot and everyone in the audience is freaking out. So just back off a little bit, super loud.
Oh, Vikka is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. Okay, well, that's good. Now we know that. All right. So yeah, you're right, Rob, about that. Is most pilots do not have much of a technical understanding at all. I think the most technical thing we learned in flight school, when I was in flight school, was the Bernoulli effect, the Bernoulli principle. And even since then, I still have questions about it. And
the Bernoulli principle is lift, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But think about this for a second, right? Because this just occurred to me one day, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know how they tell you that the way that a wing creates lift is when you have like a semi-symmetrical wing, you have the camber going over the top is a little bit longer than the cord going straight through, right? So the air is accelerated faster over the top than it goes, on the bottom. Therefore, it creates a low pressure zone for the wing. And yeah, that's all cool and fine and dandy. But then I thought, well, what about a fully symmetrical wing? How does Bernoulli principle work on a fully symmetrical wing when you do not have a disequilibrium of pressure going on each side? It's just pure displacement. Any thoughts on that?
Here's the answer. On a fully symmetrical wing, there's lift upwards and downwards. So there's literally, it cancels each other out. There's nothing. So in order for that wing to produce lift, it has to have the angle of attack. And
Right.
in that case, it's got to be the angle of attack that will create the lift. And it does work in certain situations. You're right about that. Not every situation, it's not universal, but there are certain wing applications that it does work. Voila.
Yeah.
And there's the technical understanding.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So again, really what it comes down to is just, the wind displacement. It's displacing it. It's kind of, it's like when you stick your hand out, it's literally blowing it up and down. It's not that it's creating any low pressure. And I'm not saying that the wings don't ever do that. Obviously they do. And the Bernoulli principle makes sense. But when they kind of plastered that as a one-stop shop reason for why wings lift, that just, kind of caused a short circuit when I started thinking about that. But
and you're right. Well said. It literally is the displacement of the air over the wing, as the air over the rounded edge of the wing, as it travels upward, it's going so fast. It literally sucks. It literally sucks there's a vacuum and it pulls the wing upwards. That's what the lift is. And it comes from displacement of that air. Well said.
Yep. Excellent. Oh, and
that's aerodynamics.
correct me if I'm wrong, but are you the one in the movie that said something about, I'm sorry, guys, but the conspiracy theory about planes not using jet fuel is not true, et cetera? Was that you?
That was Brett Freeman, but I
Okay.
would second it right behind it. There's no exhaust that comes out of a jet engine. There's no exhaust without combustion. Absolutely, planes fly on compressed air. But what generates the compressed air? Compressed air is the exhaust of the combustible fuel. As it burns, it expands, and that creates the exhaust. It's a complete clown myth that airplanes fly on compressed air without combustion. There's got to be combustion.
Right. And I agree with that totally. But here's the thing, you know, in the research that I've done, Victor, oh God, what's Victor's name? The guy that did all the water dynamics and spin dynamics and stuff like that.
Victor Schauberger.
Yeah. Schauberger, right? Schauberg or whatever. Okay. So I was doing some research, and basically from what I'm gleaning from this, it's not that obviously they're not burning fuel. They are burning fuel, but they don't burn it to the level that they need to. And the reason for that is because essentially they're creating a resonance, very similar to what the bumblebees do, right? And they create this resonance kind of chamber around the bee and around the wing, and that allows there to be a lot more lift, you know, by some other force that we are generally not taught about, right? But and you don't see that on high performance planes because they're always, that's, you know, this was designed as a method for cruising like airliners and stuff like that. But when you're accelerating, you're absolutely using a lot more fuel. But I think that there is at least partial something true to that, you know.
Let me just chime in.
I can speak on this.
Go ahead, you first.
Go ahead, and then I'll speak. Okay.
So
there is a differential. Are you going? Go ahead, please. Then I'll speak.
All right, I'll go real quick. Sorry. So if you look at I think it's the Airbus 380, the giant plane, the amount of fuel that they say should go in there. That it's impossible. The wings would sag. There's no possible way to put that amount of fuel in there. Now, I'm not saying it's not running on some sort of fuel, but the other problem is the hose that they're blowing the fuel into the plane. I've seen them fill giant swimming pools, and it takes days and days and days, and there's no way they can pump the fuel through that hose in the amount of time that they do. It would blow a hole right through the wing. So they're lying about at least how much fuel you can go there. Now, there are plenty of airplanes, jets, that do run only on fuel. Small planes, older planes. The newer ones, I have a question. You know, when I go on a plane, I close my eyes, I clear my head, I listen to the engines. They sound like electric engines. I don't hear any internal combustion. I don't see any fuel spills on the runway. I don't smell any fuel. I'm in an outdoor airport in Costa Rica. I watch my plane land from New York. Nothing fuels up. We get in it and it takes off and it flies back to New York. I don't smell fuel. I don't see fuel. I don't see a fuel truck. I don't see anything. So there's something to it. Don't know what it is yet, but they're lying minimum about how much fuel they use.
Yeah, I agree.
Good point. I just want to bring up this point here, and this is elementary. When the aircraft is taking off from 0 to cruise speed, from 0 to takeoff and ascending up to altitude at 33,000 feet, where they like to fly 33,000. All right, we got that. There's the 33 or 35, whatever it is, their cruising altitude. That's a massive amount of fuel, and it burns more fuel. We can imagine this. It burns more fuel when it takes off and ascent to altitude than when it levels off. The level off check is when they're burning a lot less fuel when they're leveling off. Okay, so when they take off, they burn a lot of fuel to get the aircraft in the air. But then when they're cruising, they really restrict that or reduce that burn rate as they're moving along. So long story short, there's a huge dynamic between the 2 points there. But we don't know. Down here on the ground looking at the airlines, they're not telling us. And the people that want to deceive, they will create all these myths to deceive everybody. So we don't have all the information, but at least we know this. that the aircraft burns a massive amount, disproportionately more when they take off, and disproportionately less when they're flying straight and level through the air. Any pilot knows that, Dave, or Bob, you know that when we do our level off check, we're straight and level, we're on our cruise altitude, we're on our heading, and our fuel check is proper at that altitude, at that burn rate. So as long as we know that, we don't, in other words, we don't know everything about the burn rate, but we know it does. We do have to have fuel to get the aircraft in the air. We know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And we know that we need to look into this more. My question, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Your experience is with military aircraft from aircraft carriers and aircraft bases, right? Mostly?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And now here's a point here. The F-15, the world's most widely used fighter aircraft, everybody knows and everybody complains that it has about a 2-hour on-station period. Okay, it burns. I mean, it burns so much fuel that it can only stay on station. If you get one to work with you as a combat controller, you only get it for at the most 2 hours, because he's got to fly off and refuel, and you might get lucky if he comes back and to work with you some more. So the reality of it is, if aircraft don't burn fuel, why can't the F-15 and the combat aircraft stay in the air for days at a time?
Let me answer that, because we don't want to make this the jet fuel show. So my answer to that is the F-22s or the F-16s or whatever you talk about, absolutely, they 100% use fuel. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the Airbus 380. We're talking about some commercial airlines that clearly do not use the amount of fuel that they do. So this is something that, you know, maybe when you look into it further, your opinion will sway. But, you know, I encourage anybody, the next time they're on a giant airplane, close their eyes and listen to the engines. It's an electric engine that's starting up. It's not a combustion engine.
And think about how similar it sounds to a bee. And remember, we were all told that, well, bees, you know, according to the laws of physics, they shouldn't be able to fly, but they do anyway, which would, you know, prompt you to say, well, then your physics must be wrong. Right. But it's not that the physics is wrong, but it's incomplete.
I'm with you about there. I just want to just throw out there, comparing the military planes that you're talking about to what we're talking about, two separate things. You got to not compare them, because they're two separate things. And yes, older private jets absolutely use fuel. They absolutely do. So just something to digest.
Yep. Cool.
On the bee, when it comes to the Bumblebee, Bob, I would recommend. Have you taken a look at the Bumblebee's wing stroke in slow motion?
Yes.
Oh, you have. So you know that thing's going back and forth like your leg when you're treading water.
Yes.
Analyzing that Bumblebee, his wings are moving so fast. He's literally treading the air like our body treads water in a pool. That's what he's doing. He's treading water. He's treading the air like we tread the water. There you go. That's really what's happening.
The thing that's crazy about bees, though, is like they do fly weird, you know, by watching them. But if you watch them, they can get up to 30, 40 miles an hour flying right through a windstorm, and the windstorm doesn't even seem to affect them. And Victor Schauberger knew this, right? He found this out about, you know, studying insects, the scarab beetle and stuff like that had this resonance, the sound resonance that they were developing around them kind of puts up a shield of sorts, maybe, or it makes it more stable or something like that. But the scarab beetle wings do the same thing. There's something on the bottle of scarab beetle wings that makes them highly repulsive to a lot of stuff. And again, you know, they always talked about, you know, just try and imitate nature and things like that. And I think that that's what they've done to a large degree with these big jet airliners and getting a far, far improved fuel economy, not running on compressed air entirely, but, you know, getting the improved fuel economy. So, all right. Okay. So let's move over to Mark really quick. Mark, I wanted to ask you, you obviously are writing books about this, and you have what do you have in the works? Are you going to be writing more books, and what got you into flat Earth in the first place?
Thank you once again, guys, for inviting me on your panel show. But actually, I came about I was a big NASA fanboy. You know, I used to study in the alien races, the purported alien races, and I was writing a book actually about UFOs and 63 different alien races. At the time, I didn't realize they were just fallen angels, you know, demons that fell from God's grace, you know. And so I spent 2 years on that project, and my bubble, you know, I didn't come out in 3 weeks or 3 days like, you know, people like Rob Taylor has. It took me probably 6 months. You know, I was doubting myself. I was questioning the narrative. I'm saying, how can they lie? But my coming out party was the Nephilim giants. You know, why the Smithsonian Institute was actually hiding biblical truths that come to find out that they were hiding it just to disprove the Bible. And that's where the disconnection with truth actually is. You know, you know, we're not allowing that spiritual manifestation to enhance the message that needs to be spread all over the world. If you dish in your spiritual connection to truth, then you're only gonna you're relying on the flesh, you're relying on yourself, and it's not going to get the job done. You know. And by the way, guys, think about this for a second. God has a tendency of picking up a nobody to become a somebody in front of everybody without asking anybody. So remember that. That's a strong message.
Well said.
And that's just the way I'm going to live my life. The biggest truth of all isn't flat earth. It's the truth of the word of God in Jesus Christ. And if people don't see that until it waits to bite them in the behind, so be it. And that's all I need to say. But thank you again. And as far as writing other books, I have delved into the idea, into actually a drama. You know, not as a truth book, just to test the waters of how effective I can be as an author, you know, for the future. But I haven't specifically mandated a time or you know, how long it's going to take for me to complete a novel. But I do have made up characters like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer type characters. You know, so but that's at this point, I think I'm going to focus on Flatten the Curve, the project. I think our message it's very crystal clear, but it's not finished. And I think we're going to have some sequels, and we're really going to, hopefully we can get something done, whereas it's going to impact the world, such as Flatten the Curve has. And that's going to be our biggest challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
People in the chat are asking, when do you think your next version will be out? And by people in the chat, I mean me.
Next year, David. Yeah, around. I hope I'm not too loud now. So yeah, around next year this time, because the same thing. We need time to really look into the material, what we get, and we have so much material even from the first part that we didn't put everything, because as we say, we don't want to make it so long and bore people or entertain. You know, we want to get the right stuff that needs to be shown, but we still have a lot of stuff. So we're going to be working on the next one. We're going to be working on different aspects, like you all know, in aviation or in Navy, everything could be sort of like deeper, could be dug deeper and found more. It's so much stuff. It's just as I said, we're just scratching the surface. So we have more different professionals coming ahead because of the documentary. Same as the people are waking up by seeing the documentary, there are professionals that are coming forward with more, like, you know, after seeing these legends, everyone in the movie, they are ready for the rest of them to come ahead. So we have more different variations other than the part one. So that's going to be great. So we're going to have more details to shred the globe more, you know. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, you know, as a suggestion, Vikka, you know, when you're picking your experts, I would like to find somebody, and then these guys are hard to find, but I would like to find somebody who is a vacuum expert, right? And the reason
we already have it. We got it.
You really? Oh, that's awesome. Tell me about him. Is that one of the people that was already in there? Or?
No, it's gonna as a new person. We are working on what else we could add, the vacuum and all the. All I could say is that is into nuclear engineering.
Oh, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome because these people are not easy to find. There's a lot of very specific industry that uses them, but they either have security clearances or something, right? They're really really difficult to find. And one of the things that I would really like for people to understand is that when you are dealing with vacuum, the vacuum of space, the alleged 10 to the negative 17 torr, as compared to a 760 torr or 1 atmosphere or 14.7 psi, whatever, that it is not a linear scale. It's more akin to a logarithmic. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's no big deal because you can go from 14.7 psi to 0 just as easily as you can go from 29.4 to 14.7 or down to whatever. And we know that's not true because there is a huge amount of energy that is being pinned back when you create those type of vacuum chambers, right? And when you tell people that no, this is actually a logarithmic type of scale, it kind of just blows right over their head, and this is something I really feel needs to be gone over in detail. I've covered it several times, but I don't think I do it justice, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and even the blood, like the blood boiling and the combustion in the space. So there's many aspects this person can cover really. And
right, just like, that's
for the
another
next
thing.
one.
There was supposedly a pinhole sized hole in the space station. They put their finger over it. That is absurd. That type of pressure differential would have ripped that hole into a large hole and blown everything right out of it. To say that they could get away with sticking their fingers over it was the most egregious lie I have ever heard in my life. But when you tell people and say, hey, it's only 14.7 psi, what's the big deal? And looking at it in one way, well, yeah, 14 psi, that's not much. But when you get down below 1 torr and you start going into the negative exponents, then we're talking about an exponential increase in energy that is required to create that vacuum. And people really don't get that, because if they did, they would know two things. They would know, A, that there's no way in hell that you can propel anything in space, and that you could never have an environment like cheesy piece of whatever it is, like the lunar lander with its tinfoil and 3 or 4 sheets of aluminum foil, that could ever hold out the vacuum of space. I mean, those are two of the most ridiculous things as flat earthers we understand, right? But we need to get that out there to more people. That's just the way I see it,
Exactly. And imagine $1 billion submarine is been prepared to repair from inside, and we are having this crap flying above, and these people are always trying to repair something from outside, and need $1 billion to maintain. So this just should be eye-opener for anybody. How many people it needs to operate the submarine, and these people are doing tricks up there, in their fake space.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't make sense.
We had a Globebuster by the name of Curious Life of a Flat Earther, Kirk, who did a comparison between submarines and the ISS. And of course, the ISS is nothing more than a clown show, right? It's like, oh, it's so cool, we can do this. And like, oh, look how I can steer the ISS. And then, they're showing everybody being so completely serious in the submarine. Like, what happens if you have a leak, if you have a breach? Everybody knows every single, a procedure that you could be. Whereas you get Don Pettit, right? Well, what happens if you get a leak? Well, then I guess you get a leak. There might be some procedure. You might have to do this. It's like, you got to be kidding me, right? It's like, if you got a leak, you better be scrambling for your life, because you're about to get blown out of that space station, and it's not that thick. And granted, I understand that it is designed to hold the pressure in like a big, huge air compressor, right? So it is constructed to be more sturdy than, like, you know, for example, one of those train cars that they compress. But when you when you put into context, when you think about the Sandusky vacuum facility, right? NASA Sandusky facility, and I think it's 10 to the negative sixth is the best that it can do. And it has to have 8-foot thick steel and concrete walls, you know, to keep it from drawing things through the concrete. Then how in the world do they get away with, you know, making things like the lunar lander work, right? And that's just something that I think would be a fabulous thing to really put out there and hear it from an expert at vacuum using all the correct terminology. And you know,
Bob, it would be great to hear from an expert, but you don't need an expert for that. I have a question for you guys on the. I have a question for you guys. You guys are all
the story right there.
Yeah.
The vacuum is the end of the story. Period.
Yeah.
It's done. It doesn't exist. It's an absurdity.
That's true.
I think that Don Pettit himself proves that NASA's fake. In the military, when you're, you know, to be an F-22 pilot, I'm sure there's a lot of applicants, and they only pick the brightest, the best, the smartest. And then, you know, to go into NASA, there's thousands of applicants supposedly, and they pick Don Pettit right there. Game over. Okay. I mean, Don Pettit might be the only actor not that actually thinks he went to space, because he might be completely mentally insane.
Yep.
The R word.
That's hilarious.
What were you going to say, Rob?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's all. I'm just laughing at what he's saying because it's so. To use the expression, it's spot on. But it's all an absurdity. All these different factoids that we're bringing out, any of them individually is enough to shut down the entire globe system. But here we are with fact after fact after scientific fact, easily proven, conceptually simple, and it just shows the absurdity of the entire affair. The globe. Now I want to throw this out. The globe itself is therefore, according to all of our analysis, simple analysis, as simple as the Pythagorean theorem, vacuum, the second law of thermodynamics. You cannot have a pressurized system next to a negative system, let alone a vacuum, without a barrier. Therefore, the globe itself is a mathematical, geometric, geophysical, and geospatial, and in all other respects, a scientific absurdity. And it is therefore a deliberate fallacy.
Yep, you're definitely preaching to the choir here, but you know,
yes, sir.
We've discovered that, you know, sometimes you have to tell that same story in a plethora of different ways to reach all of the people. You might tell it one way, I might tell it another, David might tell it, you know, a third way, and then that person goes, oh wow, God, I get it now, David. You know, get his, you know, explanation. And, you know, that's what we need like a diversity of explanations, because you're right. We have all the proof. We have all the proof that the globe doesn't work. We can debunk it in a myriad of ways. And the few things that they do try to debunk us on is largely a huge misunderstanding or blatant, you know, lies on their part. So, for example, are you aware now that the Globers, the mainstream Glober, you know, debate trolls, if you ever listen to Nathan Oakley's show over there, they are now coming back and claiming that they never said there was anything as a geometric Earth curve, right? Geometric horizon due to Earth curve. They're actually saying that they never claimed that. And it's like, what? We've been arguing that for 3 years. What's that caused by? Well, it's blocked. And you see, the mass of the horizon should be here, right? So then when the black swan comes out and we can prove 50 ways from Sunday, that's okay. Well, mathematically, the geometric, you know, globe horizon should be right here, and it's not. And in fact, it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles beyond that. You know, how do you explain that? Well, we never said that. We never said there was one, right?
Bob, there is physical Earth curve on the globe, but you just can never see it.
Yeah. Well, in some places, I'm sure there is, but nothing to the degree that like they're making us believe. And even then, you know, I think that, for example, and I was kind of bummed out that the guy that was working with the fiber optic gyro was not here because you guys have this ANWSN 7 that you were talking about in the submarine. And so I looked it up and I was reading it. And it's funny that they should, have to mention that they try and utilize it in it's kind of like the flat stationary Earth model, as an ideal environment. That's all in here. But so, oh crap, I forgot what I was going to say. I hate it when that happens, don't you? It'll come back to me in a second. But anyway, I was looking at the Schuler tuning on this because I don't know if you know what Schuler tuning is. It's the supposed modifications that they make to the INS, to compensate for the curvature of the Earth, right? And it's very largely misunderstood. But when they talk about this in here, God, I wish I could find that. You know what? I should probably just stop while I'm ahead because I've got to find that first. But there's something really interesting in this document that I kind of wanted to talk to that guy about. Because it is a ring laser gyro. I was working with a fiber optic gyro, the Honeywell fiber optic gyro. And obviously the difference between the fiber optic gyro and the ring laser gyro that I was using and like the Navy uses is that the fiber optic gyro has a long wound up a coil of fiber optic cable in there that's actually shooting light through. And in doing so, it is creating its own inertial reference frame. Whereas the way that the ring laser gyro is operating with just, bouncing light off the turntables, essentially, and in a very small place, they actually do operate in a very different way. But so I definitely had some questions about that, and I'll think about it. I'm sorry that I'm having a brain cramp here. So anyway, so Vikka, when you're going to come up with some more, and you're talking about next week, but or next year that you will have something out. Can you give us kind of a preview? Do you have like an outline of where you want it to go yet, or is it just going to be kind of more the same, more experts, or you're going to be doing it a different way, or how's that going to work?
Oops, sorry guys, it's so bad. I'm here. It's so bad weather here. I don't know if you guys can hear in the background the rain, so I didn't hear really the question well, but I think I understand a bit. It's going to be dynamic. We're going to change in a way. We cannot make the same thing, even if you want to create something similar. So in art, sometimes it's not possible to do the same thing. So we're gonna be covering different topics, but the main theme is to dismantle the globe. So that's the main theme of the FTC2. So what we could do is we could go more deeper in different points where we could, because for example in aviation we have VORs that we have not covered, communications that we didn't cover. For example, in the Navy part, we didn't cover the ECDIS, the electronic chart system, display system. So there are so many stuff we can still go into, and something like that.
Yeah. We actually had a sonar expert on our Globebusters expert series that came on, and it's amazing that sonar seems to be oblivious to curvature as well. It's just amazing. Nothing seems to block this alleged curvature of the Earth that we supposedly have, right? And the ballers, I don't even understand, but their excuse is it's always refraction, always refraction, always refraction, and that is so easily debunked. First of all, in any normal light situation, we never see light refract downwards at all. At least I never have. I'm sure there may be a rare occasion where that actually happens, but we've seen it happen with our lasers during our laser experiments, especially over water, where the beam will actually jump up. It'll hit a thicker patch of air and it will actually jump up. But, they would have you believe that, the Earth has this consistent downpour, a down drawing of light. That's why they put in a standard refraction variable, right, of 7.6R, which is nonsense, right? They're putting in a variable and calling it standard for something that doesn't even exist and rarely even occurs, right?
And the absurdity. That's the scientific absurdity right there.
Yeah.
They're making something that the refraction is an anomaly, and they're making it consistent. That is absurd.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
they can't hold to anything physical. They want to go in something refraction or thing that you cannot really prove. The physical curvature they cannot really prove. The laser that's pointing hundreds of miles in itself on the ship on a flat water, there no needs to be to prove anything. It's proving right there there is no curvature. So even, for example, like we were discussing about the glide ratio of a plane during its descent.
Oops, you're breaking up, Vikka. I think that storm's getting to you. Are you there still?
His upload rate is rather slow too, unfortunately, where he's at.
Bummer. Okay,
Yep.
well, I think the storm may have taken him out. He's still in with us. So keep trying, Vikka, and we'll let you know when we hear you. So, panel, do you guys have any questions that you would like to go over with either Mark or Vikka or Rob? Oh, boy. I'm feeling all alone all of a sudden here.
And Bob, this is Rob Taylor, Rob Flat Playing Earth. I'd like to go into a little more depth on our sequels, Flatten the Curve 2, 3, and 4. We've already talked about this. There's many areas. There's at least 5 different areas we could go into. Every one of our specialties that we discussed in the documentary, for example, aviation would be one. Everything regarding aviation. Vikka talks about it. The VORs, the communication, the physics, literally the physics behind the ADIs, the attitude indicator, the gyro, and the fact that the hovering helicopter proves there is no Coriolis. The fact that when an airplane lands, the airport is absolutely stationary. The airplane doesn't have to turn to the heading of the rotating Earth and catch the Earth as it spins away, as it rotates away. Okay, and then Bob, you got to know this: time distance heading. One concept: time distance heading proves there is no movement to the Earth. There is no Coriolis. There any number of these factors. That's several documentaries just now, and those few topics that I mentioned right there. Then we could go into ship navigation, and then the entire suite of ship physics and details regarding ship navigation. And then we've got radar and sonar. There's a third topic. And then all the studies that the book guys have put up, we could talk about that. And then the even bigger topic is basic chemistry and basic physics. And that's an unlimited number of sequels right there. When we talk about the gas pressure, you can't. The second law of thermodynamics that we know we cannot have a pressurized system next to a low pressure system or a vacuum, especially a vacuum, without a barrier. Well, where's the barrier around the Earth that protects the Earth from the infinite vacuum of space? And when we say infinite, that's not 100 pounds. Think the 14 psi pressure of the Earth versus the 14 billion negative psi of space, theoretically sucking all that air pressure away from the Earth. It's absurd. It is a scientific absurdity. We can make any number of sequels, videos that talk about these simple observations. In other words, our retinue in front of us is wide open. It's wherever we want to go from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're on this, I want to ask you guys something, because this is a battle that I have taken on largely. And, there's one thing that the flat earthers have been saying that really does kind of annoy me. And, we have had so many debates about it. It took me forever to finally get Jeran convinced of it. But, the flat earthers are saying, well, there's really no such thing as gravity. And, if you look at gravity as in terms of, well, it's basically just weight. And that's, gravitas actually just means weight. Well, then obviously there is such a thing as weight. But the way that mainstream tells us gravity works is, well, if you look at Einstein, then it's a curvature of space-time that is causing things to, fall into this kind of distorted pocket of space. And if you look at the Newtonian version of it, then it's supposedly mass attracting mass. Now, I don't believe for one second that mass attracts mass unless it's a magnet or something like that, even though there is scientific basis for that kind of assumption. But really, the thing that bothers me the most is that there's kind of a theory going on out there where they say that the only thing that is necessary is relative density, right? And everything that I've been, trying to get across to people is that you need more than that. There has to be more than just relative density. You have to have this downward accelerative force, whatever is causing it, right? Something is causing a preferred direction of down, right? Why down? And not only why down, but why does it accelerate in the down direction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But unfortunately, as a result, a lot of flat earthers, will come up and just say point blank, well, there's no such thing as gravity, which is, it's so convoluted. Yeah, that's true in a way. It's definitely false in another way. And then there's a whole nother way of looking at gravity, which I don't know if you have heard my thoughts on that or my presentations on that. But, where are you at on that? What do you think about the whole gravity issue?
I can answer that, Bob.
Okay.
This is Rob again, and my credential, physics. I went through all this. I can tell you this, that I can remember my lieutenant colonel chemistry instructor. This is second semester plebe year, freshman year at West Point. Plebe means slave, right? So I was a slave at West Point for two full semesters, right? So I can remember my instructor trying to explain the Lorentz Fitzgerald contraction, describing the Michelson-Morley experiment. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it because I'm sure he's probably at least master's degree chemist and everything else. He couldn't do it because he didn't have a full grasp of it. We out here, we can talk about it, but it's absurd. It's an absurdity because what about conservation of mass? The Lorentz Fitzgerald contraction theorem, it posits that something loses mass while it's moving forward. But what about conservation of mass? So they contradict their own established standards of observable science. Now, Bob, I've thought about this. If we could redefine gravity, most people will say what you said, Bob. There's something pulling things down, or is there? I would submit this, Bob, as a proposal. Heavier items fall, lighter items rise. That is the law. And it falls as if it's falling downward without bound. That's where the acceleration comes from. There's an empty pit for everything unless there's something beneath it supporting it. And what we have motionless underneath us is the earth. The earth stops things from falling. If there was no if there was no solid base below anything, it would continue to fall. But the earth is below everything, stops it.
But the question is why?
Lighter items rise. But that's the law. We can go no further than that. That's what I'm submitting here.
The question is why? Why does it fall earthward? That's the question. Why is it earthward that is the preferred direction? I would also say that gravity isn't pulling anything as much as it is pushing.
There is no force pulling down. We can observe nothing. We can measure nothing, right? We know that objects fall, but the open question is why. You're right about that. Why?
Right.
But we know.
And I think we have an answer for that.
Okay, go ahead.
I definitely, we'll go over it privately because I don't want to bore the panel to death with this. Everybody's heard on.
I'm done. We don't need to go into a big discussion, right?
And it took a long time to get everybody on board, and a lot of people did, and a lot of people still say nope, gravity doesn't exist. All you need, and I respect that opinion, but I am very, very, very positive when I say that I can explain it to you in such a way where you will understand that it is an absolute necessity. For that downward accelerative force, whatever causes it. And I even think I know what causes it as well. And we've been able to replicate it experimentally. But again, this is something that the mainstream has gone in a direction where they tried to discredit any thoughts toward that. They don't want anybody to understand the true electric nature of the Earth, right? And this gravitational thing, much like the ether, is real, but it's a different modality of the ether. And I can explain all that, and I'd love to do that with you. And obviously, I'm thinking that you would be a great person also to have on with some of these technical talks on Globebusters, if you'd be up for that.
Glad to do it. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Excellent. So yeah, I mean that, and I agree. I mean, we need to go in these directions. Believe me, it has not been a lot of fun going against, even flat earthers, because they get pissed off at you. I was like, no, Bob, you're trying to back up the whole movement. And I'm not saying all of them are doing that. I'm not even saying the majority. Actually, most people that I've been talking with, once they understand exactly what I'm saying, agree with me. But it takes a while to get there. But I think that with your training, you'll probably be able to understand it a lot easier. And oops, there you are. I just added you back in. So
I accidentally knocked myself out.
So that'll be cool. But yeah, so that's good. And I don't mind that you have a different viewpoint, but I am certainly going to try and change your mind on it, on as to what exactly is happening there, because there is a definite phenomenon that is real going on.
I want to know what you've seen. All I'm going is the lowest common denominator that I can throw off the top of my head. If you've got more information, please let me know and I'll look at it. Absolutely.
I most certainly do.
Well, Ben, I'm gonna chime in on that, guys, if you don't mind. You got to remember this, going back to how heavily indoctrinated people are. As far as ether was driven out of the equations from the theory of relativity. Ether is a very, very mysterious force, as well as plasma. What is the moon made of? Obviously, it's not made of Swiss cheese. But the thing about it is, you must always, and Rob knows this, be willing to truly consider evidence that contradicts your beliefs and admit the possibility that you may be wrong. Intelligence isn't knowing everything; it's the ability to challenge everything that you know.
Well said. Intellectual curiosity. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I agree. And I believe 100% without any doubt or reservation whatsoever that the ether is real. It can be proven. It can be measured. It can be predicted. And
1913, right? He proved it does exist.
Yeah, Sagnac did. And the ring laser gyro and the fiber optic gyro both work off that Sagnac effect. If relativity was true, you wouldn't have a phase differential on those laser interferometers, right? So there is something that is setting the speed of light, and that is the medium that it's propagating through. And when I say propagating through, I don't mean that it's traveling through it. I mean it's being perturbated. Right. So think of it this way. The way the standard model of light is brought to us, they say, okay, you have a flashlight, right? And you turn on that flashlight and you're shining it around the room. That's cool. But then you have a fish tank in the room and you shine that flashlight through the fish tank, or let's use a laser light, a little more graphic. Okay. And immediately what happens is it slows down, according to the mainstream, it slows down the speed of light to about 0.6 C, right? As it goes through that water. And then when it leaves the tank, then it speeds back up again. Well, that breaks all kind of physics laws, right? Conservation of energy and momentum. But the biggest thing is that if it is going back up to the speed of light, then there has to be some other mechanism at work here. It's not slowing down and then violating laws of physics to be speeding up. But what happens is if you go with the etheric theory, which has worked fine for centuries, and every major physicist coming up to before and even after Einstein, and even most Nobel laureates today acknowledge the ether 100%. Will tell you that because it's a perturbation, because it's like you're stimulating something. It's like going through stimulating water to stimulating syrup, right? If you're going to, stick your finger in there, the syrup will go much, much slower because the medium is heavier. And then once it changes that medium, you back to the water or air or whatever, then it travels much, much faster because it is a rate of induction that you're perturbating the ether into. So, and this, like I said, science has gotten along well with that explanation for centuries until, the ridiculous Lorentz contraction that they came up with, only to discredit Michelson-Morley and
Exactly.
Michelson-Gale. Yeah.
For the only reason to discredit Michelson-Morley. And then they threw out Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein is to relativity as Al Gore is to global warming, as to Bill Gates is to viruses and COVID. He's just an actor. They just put his face on there. It's just another ruse from the Luciferian liars. That's all it is. So, voila.
Yeah, absolutely. So, something that we'll definitely talk about, and I'll have you on a Globebusters Tech show on a Wednesday at some point if we want to do that, and then I'll go through it. We'll give you the whole slam dunk, and I have a feeling that you're going to kind of go, wow, I never really looked at it that way before, because it really is quite profound, and yet it isn't, because it's something that has been known by so many of the other major physicists, in our time. And
hey guys, I wanted to chime in what Rob was suggesting, about the Einsteins and stuff. Nowadays, obviously, do not confuse follow the science with follow the scientists. Science is objective and factual. Scientists can be sold to the highest bidder.
Absolutely.
That's what this is about.
Look at it. Absolutely. Yes.
And which converts it to scientism. And of course, even scientists admit, and we got Michio Kaku, on video saying, nobody I knows in my field, nobody I know uses the scientific method. In our field, we just fly by the seat of our pants. It's like, what? Way to hang yourself, dude.
Yeah. Here's what, in other words, what he means is they use the Moose principle, MUSS. They say, make up some shit. That's what they do. They just make it up and throw it out. Yes, sir. Hey, at this point, I'd like to throw out something, and I'll make it real brief. It's another concept that we can talk about in another discussion. The speed of light. They try to put a number on the speed of light, but I will say that's bullocks. There is no speed of light. Speed of light has to do with the ether and magnitude. As soon as we turn on a light switch, it is immediately illuminating all of its area to the limit of its magnitude. If you see what I mean there. And because the ether functions almost as a metal, and just to describe this, if you got a metal sheet, if you got an aluminum sheet 5 feet long, and you put a 9-volt battery and you touch the 9-volt battery at one end, well, that 9-volt battery is only going to extend to a certain radius. Whereas if you put 120 volts to that, it's going to electrify the entire sheet. Well, the ether is no different. When we put a little candle or a little match, a small light is only going to illuminate a small area, but it illuminates immediately. It's immediately there because of the ether. It's immediate, like the electrons, like the metal. It's immediately there. Whereas if we put a massive 400 power flashlight, it's going to illuminate the entire area, not just a little area. So that's another factor of speed of light. I would say speed of light is not 3 times 10 to the 8. Speed of light is immediate. So that's another way of looking at these simple factors there. These are all great conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've been told forever, the speed of light is exactly 186,282 miles per second. It's like, whatever. But every single time they measure it, it's different. So what do? They renormalize it. That's one of science's big tricks, right? They renormalize it.
Scientism. It's scientism, right? And they change their garbage every 5 minutes.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, the ether theory really is the only way to go. And like I said, almost every single Nobel laureate today will tell you that the ether is there. Not only that, but the Air Force did a test in 1986, I believe, redid the Michelson-Morley and came to the conclusion that it was there. And even Einstein himself said that he could not imagine the universe working without the ether. And in fact, it cannot.
Yes. What did he say? There is no visual experiment that will prove motion of the Earth. Einstein himself said that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and he said that, but that's not true because the what we're doing when we're taking these measurements with the Michelson-Morley and Michelson-Gale, these are optical experiments, and they absolutely are showing that there is no motion of the Earth through it, right? But if you take that, put that same mechanism to work, either through a fiber optic gyro or a ring laser gyro, well, you can strap it on an airplane and you can tell within a teeny tiny minuscule of a fraction of what direction it changes to, right? That's the beautiful thing about interferometry, is its incredible precision that it goes to. So I mean, there's so many things that have been badly misrepresented that have made flat earthers go completely off the curve on this. It makes me crazy, and I really think we need to stop that.
What you're saying is it's all in the details. We have to know our details before we make any claims. In other words, so we can back it up. And you know what, Bob? What we need to do, and it's our task, is to educate our flat earth community so they can stand on what they claim, so they know how to explain it properly.
Yes. And I will be the first to admit also, guys, now, when it comes to the gravity and the mechanism that we're saying that it works from, I can tell you that we can demonstrate it, what we're saying. We can even reverse that gravitational effect. Zack, Good Times for All, has made videos as to how that works. He's staying here. Yeah, he's our roommate actually here in our house, and he's been with us for a couple of years now. He's the video maker, and he's very smart. And of course, he and I are talking about this, a lot, and he's good at making videos, so he puts it out there. So yes, we can actually demonstrate this, but this theory that that density is all you need, density and is not true.
Relative density.
Yeah, you have to have a bias on it, and there is a bias on it.
I want to throw this out that yes, you're exactly right. We could say this: there are always other factors. Yes, electricity and the ether. Absolutely, that affects the fall rate versus buoyancy or density. It's based on buoyancy versus density, but look at an airplane. I'm just going to throw this out and move on to something else. An airplane has zero. Well, it weighs 40 tons. Let's say an airplane weighs 40 tons on the tarmac, but then when it moves forward, it's buoyant in the air. Well, where does the buoyancy come from? It comes from dynamic buoyancy, from its movement. It's a form of kinetic buoyancy. And again, from the Bernoulli principle, flying forward, there are always other factors. In other words, the airplane, when it's motionless, it's dense, but when it's moving, it's less dense than the air around it, so it flies. So there's always other factors that we need to consider. Absolutely. Now, I want to throw out this. When we were talking about the bumblebees, back to our conversation about the bumblebees and the electricity, they generate a field around them. It's probably static electricity, and they float. They literally float in the air because of static electricity. Spiders do the same. Spiders will they'll spin their web up in the air, and then they'll electrify it. They can literally climb through the molecules of air because of static electricity. Moving forward, the TR-3B, if anyone wants to look up the cylinder or the cigar-shaped UFO, it does exist. It flies by nuclear generation of a static electric field around it. Then the most recent one is the TR-3B, TR-3B. Look it up on the internet. It flies it generates lift using static electricity generated from a nuclear generator on board. So these do exist, and this is one way to counteract that falling effect, Bob, that you're talking about. There are other factors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between the rise and fall, there's an axis. When you are neutral, that's where you get that floating effect when you get in those planes of these microgravity planes. So that's what is happening. You are neutral between the two axes, between density and buoyancy. Okay, so the electromagnetic fields do play a very important part in this too. So the things attracts and pulls because of this magnetic energy. So if we have sun and the moon and all the constellation moving around the earth, because the electromagnetic energy is much more higher, and we can feel that attraction and pull and push of the water and everything around. So this have to affect in some ways. So the magnetism between apart from the density and buoyancy. So there is possible that, as I think Bob, you were also mentioning in some video, that maybe it's possible that things could float because of this magnetism and all the gases that are present in the atmosphere, in the higher atmosphere. It could even create a layer because of the gases, and which could be like semi-penetrable, like someone mentioned also.
One also, Bob, would call it maybe like something like electromagnetic levitation. When
actually it's electrostatic. If you want to be technical about it, it's electrostatic. And I'm going to show you something because I'm going to guess that you haven't seen this. And who was going to say something? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was explaining with the TR3B, electrostatic. They generate the static electricity and they reverse the field. Voila.
Right. Oops. And somebody just dropped out. All right. Add Vikka back in. Okay. Thank you, sweetheart. All right. So can you guys see the webpage I have up?
Yeah.
It says MIT engineers built an airplane that flies without any moving parts. Okay. Duh. This is exactly what I have been talking about for years now, quite literally. And they're acting like it's some big new thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the thing is that they call it an ion propulsion drive, and it works, but the problem is it cannot work in space. Why can't it work in space? Because in order to ionize something, you have to have particulate matter to be ionized. And in space, particulate matter is very, very rare when you're talking about 10 to the 17 torr type of vacuums. Obviously, you can never get a perfect vacuum, so you can never have, a vacuum that goes negative. I mean, vacuum is always a positive thing, but you can get as close to zero as possible, right? But the problem is if you are ionizing things to use a drive like an ion drive, and you take away the material that needs to be ionized, you've just screwed yourself. You just screwed the pooch. And there's no way this will work in space, even though they're going to try and tell you this. Now, I've been talking about this type of propulsion for quite some time, and even NASA will talk about this tethering, right? Electrostatic tethering. Are you familiar with that, Rob?
I personally am not. No.
Okay, so NASA's talking about this electrostatic tethering essentially, and this is the way they do this, by the way, with satellites on in the flat Earth. They're basically, you've all seen the AE map, right, where it goes, up and down. Let me actually bring that up really quick. It'll make this easier to explain. Let's go, Bob. Winds.com. All right. And let's go to this. So basically, we have this projection, which of course was removed from nullskull.net, right? Because they're jerks. But if we look at the wind data and we go down to 10 hectopascals, okay, so what we see here is we see alternating lines, alternating wind currents that are perfect, right? Look at the way that they do this. This is going counter, this is going clockwise, this is going counter, this is going clockwise. And it does this at all kinds of different levels, right? And so the way that they are making the balloons, they're able to navigate the balloons is by using this electrostatic tethering, right? What nature does. I'm going to show you how nature does this in just a second. But essentially, what they're doing is if they plant a satellite over here and they want it to go another direction, all they have to do is hang that tether out there and change the charge potential on that tether. And it can be, several hundred feet long or dozen feet long or whatever, and it will cause the balloon to go up or down. This is something you can replicate with a Van de Graaff generator. It's quite simple. All right. So, yeah, this is cool. Now, this I thought was so cool because. By the way,
that's how spiders do it. They electrify their webs and they can climb in the air using this very concept.
That's what I was just going to show you. So I'm going to play this again. If you've seen it, forgive me, but I love this. But this is awesome. And you know what? I have to unshare and reshare.
Absolutely. So what the government secretly has done, they're replicating the existing world of nature and they're using it to their advantage. Just they never show us what's going on.
Right.
Voila.
Exactly.
Other than MIT, they publish it, but nobody pays attention. We are paying attention. There we go. That's how we know about it.
Yep. All right. So now you should be able to see that. All right. So I'm going to play this video. This is cool because I actually played this years ago because I've been developing this theory for a long time. And as far as I'm concerned, it's nuts on. It is exactly what gives us our gravity. We can demonstrate with it. You blow you away how we can demonstrate this, and you will find out, believe me. So let's watch this really quick and see what you guys think of it. I'll be anxious to see. Here we go. Let me know if you don't hear it, okay?
Of all the great flyers the world has ever known, it may come as a surprise that one of the best aviators in the animal kingdom doesn't even possess wings. Spiders, instead, use long fans of silk to carry them through the air, often for many hundreds of miles, in a process known as ballooning. They have long been known to have flown the nest in such a way. Charles Darwin himself marveled at hundreds of tiny spiders landing on the Beagle while out at sea, and later recorded how they took off from the ship with great speeds even on a calm, windless day. During this time, there were two theories for how ballooning worked. The first theory, and the most obvious explanation, was that long strands of silk emitted by the spider catch the wind and the associated drag forces pull the spider aloft. But spiders will only balloon on days where the wind is a gentle breeze, which raises the questions of how there'd be enough force to pull the silk from the spider's spinnerets, and how could heavier spiders even become airborne at all? The second theory was that atmospheric electricity could also provide the force needed to get the spider aloft. Similar to how your hair lifts to stand on end when you rub a balloon on your jumper, spider silk could be lifted into the air by natural electrostatic forces in the atmosphere. These electric fields are present at all times all around the world, but are most noticeable during thunderstorms when they are at their strongest. Surprisingly, until now, the electrostatic theory of spider ballooning had never been tested. In our lab at the University of Bristol, we isolated spiders from any airflow or atmospheric electricity and generated our own controlled electric field at levels.
Let me tell you real quick how they did that. Essentially, they set up a Faraday, kind of a Faraday type of cage, except they connected this construct to a high voltage, like a Van de Graaff generator, okay? And basically, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Earth has a natural electrical field that is consistent all over the plane of 100 volts per meter. And it's been measured as high as 50 kilometers, which makes it 5 million volts. I believe it goes all the way up to the firmament, which would be 100 kilometers. And that would make it 10 million volts, thus putting us inside and giving us this perfect Gaussian surface, right, between the ground, Earth ground, and the firmament. So then we have a cathode and an anode there, which gives us an area for an electrostatic field, right?
Absolutely.
So that's how they do this. And one thing that they didn't do is reverse the field, because you know what happens when you reverse the field? You got it. Gravity goes the other way. But I'm not going to go there. But they figured this out, by doing this, and this is exactly the type of experiments that we are doing. And I just thought it's amazing. And you'll see how many kilovolts, how many thousand volts when they turn the field on. It'll show up like down here. And you will see what the electric field voltage changes to when they are able to balloon. So let me continue this real quick.
It's found in nature. In response, the spiders began to change their behavior to perform tiptoeing, where they straighten their legs, raise their abdomen, and release silk. This behavior is only ever seen when a spider wants to balloon. Furthermore, once the spider was aloft, its altitude could be controlled by turning the electric field on and off. This demonstrates that spiders can balloon using electrostatic forces alone, but in all likelihood, they would use a combination of both wind and electricity to balloon in their natural environments. So how do the spiders detect these electric fields? In this experiment, it was also observed that the minute sensory hairs on the spider's exoskeleton were similarly moved by the electric field. We can then infer that spiders can feel the charge in the air using the same sensory hairs they would use to detect a breeze. The results of this study show us that electrostatic forces could be an integral part of spider ballooning, and by fully understanding the mechanisms behind it, we can better describe population dynamics, dispersal, and ecological resilience, all of which are important for global ecology.
And there you have it. So isn't that interesting, right? Taking a page right off of nature and spiders, using this exact same technique. And then, of course, I don't have that video pulled up right now, but I have the video where NASA talks about how they use tethering on their satellites, right? But what they're not saying is that those tethers are actually being attached to balloons. But they still work the same way.
Exactly. That's my video, Bob. It's one of my videos so that I have about satelloons and how they, by changing the altitude, and they also use lasers and try to line with other balloons. But the main system is to just go up and down because of this, just two different streams. Just changing the altitude, they can change the direction. That's one of my videos from the satelloons. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's exactly what they are. That's what satellites actually are. And, like I said, my specialty in electrical engineering was RF. I worked in cellular, microwave, satellite, two-way radio, paging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All things communications. That's what I did for 40 years. So a long, long time. And it's amazing how little people are able to understand about this, mostly because they're just not taught about things like this anymore. And they're taught things wrongly by saying, like the ether doesn't exist. And if you don't understand, if you believe that the ether doesn't exist, then you certainly are not going to buy into any physics that mechanically puts it together and demonstrate how it actually works, right? So they don't even want to look at that. So, the controllers are pretty smart when they figured all this out. But of course, every physicist in the world, is basically saying Einstein's out of his freaking mind. There's no way that, relativity is right. And relativity, let's face it, guys, relativity is stupid. It is just ridiculous. All it does is obfuscate.
Absolutely. Yep. It's absurd. It's an absurdity. Michael said, Morley, isn't it true that every experiment ever designed to show motion of the Earth has shown that it does not move, period?
That's right. That is a fact.
There we go. Then there goes relativity. The Earth doesn't move. Literally, the water in a glass of water on anybody's counter, the water in your water bottle on your desk, it doesn't move. It's not sloshing at 700 miles an hour as if we're on a merry-go-round spinning 700 miles an hour. Because if the globe is moving, if the Earth is moving, it has to spin at least 700 miles an hour in North America, because it has to spin 1,040 miles an hour at the equator. But we never observe it. It's not observable, it's not testable, and it's not repeatable. Done. Relativity is garbage. Voila.
Yeah, absolutely. But isn't it funny how, they come out with things like this, that this is our next big thing, that we're going to build an airplane that flies without moving parts. And it's just not, this ion drive will never work. If you don't have anything to ionize, to charge,
exactly,
then you're not going anywhere, man. And they even say that people that have actually built these things, they say, yeah, they work down here at ground level. They don't work very well. They will develop a pull, and they'll move things, they'll cause locomotion, but they're far from powerful or anything like that. But NASA, once again, would want us to believe that because it's so mysterious in the way that it works down here on Earth, that it's the perfect device for space propulsion. And in fact, when you understand the way that it's supposed to work, there's no way that it can work in space, because it simply cannot put a charge on anything to electrify it.
Because that needs the atmosphere, which is missing. The same thing happened with the radio signal, that these people think that the radio signals are reaching in a vacuum to Mars and to the voyages going to Saturn, but there is no field. There is no field. Like the radio signals on the Earth need that field and atmosphere to move ahead. And that's not happening in space. That is very similar to why this thing cannot work in space, because this kind of flies, because there is no field.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
because
100%.
there is nothing in space. And let's not forget their definition of the Van Allen belts. There is nothing outside the Van Allen belts. Nothing can penetrate outside the Van Allen belts. Let's not forget Operation Fishbowl in 1962. Nothing penetrates past the Fishbowl Van Allen belts. There it is. Their own admission, nothing gets out. Literally nothing gets out by their definition.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
and that makes communication using a 25-watt transmitter, to Voyager, a billion miles away or 2 or 3 billion miles away, utterly ludicrous, right? They think
Exactly.
for whatever reason that, because it's in the vacuum of space that RF will go on forever. That is complete nonsense. The inverse square law alone completely debunks any type of assertion like that. And in fact, the same goes for the light output by the stars and the moon. For example, one of the presentations I did in Denver was about the applying the inverse square law to the light of the moon. And Jeran's also done it. Taboo's done it. And it's astounding. When you first look at the number, it's such a big freaking number. It's like 14 quadrillion lumens, right? I mean,
Wow.
that much light would vaporize anything, right? But I've done the math. Ben's done the math. Jeran's done the math. We had everybody in FE Core do the math. It's like, my God, that in and of itself tells you that that's simply impossible, right?
Bob, if you watch the raw footage of the Red Bull jump, they lost communication with him at like 120,000 feet. They could barely communicate with a guy directly above them at 120,000 feet. But we can talk to people on the moon or on the space station.
249,000 miles away. Exactly, right?
Don't exaggerate. 238,000.
Oh, yeah, exactly. 11,000 miles there. Yeah, using 1960s technology, right? In other words, an FM radio. There we go.
Yeah,
exactly.
On
It's just a radio signal.
On a land phone at that, from
from the president's office.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, they say that they use Doppler effect to cover more distance, to get much more further. But the radio signal out in the vacuum is not happening. So we literally, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So it's completely ludicrous. It really is. And then of course they want you to believe that I also did a path loss examination using the Pasternak calculator. I don't know how much you work with RF path loss or anything like that, but basically what I did is I went to the world standard that most people are using these days. Is the Pasternak site, which will calculate your path loss variables for you. It's great. Engineers use it all the time. All you do is you put in the numbers, bada bing, and it tells you, what's going to happen. And so I actually did that calculation for just the moon, right? And we figured in the gain of the antenna, the power at the antenna feed horn, the gain of the antenna, and then the path loss itself. And already at that point, the signal had degraded so much by the time that it hit the moon, or would have gotten to the moon, that it could have never returned, right? Let alone bounce off or scatter or anything like that. Now that's radar, but I'm sorry, but they can't transfer 25 watts back through that. And why is it that they use VHF or UHF? Why is it that one microwave frequency all of a sudden passes through that Great Barrier, but everything else is blocked, right? It's like a big bandstop filter. I mean, they just pull this stuff out of their butt. And then they tell us stuff like the Voyager, right, which is transmitting 25 watts on its microwave, and it's out there at the edge of the solar system. And I have a clip of the NASA engineer saying, yeah, the Voyager, when it transmits, it's 25 watts, about the same as a refrigerator light bulb. From that distance, it gets here at a signal strength of 1/10 trillionth of a billionth of a watt. And it's like, really? And what receiver in this land or Narnia could ever pull that out of the noise? It's impossible. And yet RF engineers don't even seem to understand that. They seem to think that it's all real. It's amazing. So crazy stuff. Anyway, guys, okay, we're going all over the place here. So does anybody else have anything that they want to say? You know, I know we've been kind of dominating the time. Ben, do you have anything you want to comment? Maybe ask them about the Nicobine, or if they've heard about that or anything like that.
Sorry, just I'm trying to do two things at once, and so I kind of drift off here now and then. But no, I just want to say thank you for doing your work. I would recommend that maybe you might want to talk to that F-16 pilot as well as for your series, because his information I think is vital for what you're trying to do. So anyway, this is more good information to add.
I was about to say to Bob that if he wants to assemble with anyone that he thinks could be for the next show, could send our way. We would, I would love to have people.
Absolutely. Well, you know, to be honest with you, Vikka, that's when Jeran and I started Globebusters, right? I don't know if you know the history of this, but it started as, well, we're just going to go online and answer some questions about flat Earth, right? And it turned into a thing where, we were doing it multiple times a week. It got wildly popular. We got incredible view counts and all this stuff. And then one day Jeran goes, I just really can't keep up with this. So I've got to drop and I think we should, stop doing this. He goes, unless you would like to take it over and do something with it. And I thought about it for a while. I said, you know what? I would like to do something with it. I would like to make it more about technical understanding. I mean, I'm an engineer, I'm a pilot, I get how things work. And I have a knack for explaining things to people in ways that they can understand. And so one thing that there are not a lot of in this community, at least not that I've met, until very recently, is other, engineers and people like myself that are not afraid to come out and actually talk about what's going on. So in terms of that, Vikka, I would love to, be in touch with your technical experts, definitely more with Rob and the other guys that, that were on the show, especially the Mariner that was talking about the ring laser gyro. And yeah, because this is exactly where Globebusters, at least the Wednesday night show, is going to be going, that'll be the technical side, much more technical than what we would cover, I think, on the Sunday show. The Sunday is more of a general flat earth thing, and we're going to be doing more debunks of people like Professor Dave and, those kind of things that you hate doing because you can't stand these clowns, but somebody really needs to say something about them, right? So, yeah. I definitely would love the opportunity to, hook up with other engineers for sure. And I also have resource of FE Core, which has a bunch of engineers in it also. But we're always looking for new people.
I got a quick
question.
Oh, yeah. What's the name of
would be great.
What's the URL of of the Real Truth Seekers, is it? What's the actual URL?
The shortest one is rts.video. I'm going to send you a link. I've already sent Bob the link.
I've been trying to go into it. It won't load for me. I'm wondering if the site is down or is it just me?
And Dave, it's in the private chat for you.
Okay, yeah, I can't. It's not working for me, so I'll work on it.
Yeah, go on the RTS.
I'm going to send you a direct link. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Look for and search Vikka Draziv. It's simple enough.
Yeah, Bob, for sure. It would be awesome. All collaboration. Yeah, count on any one of us. If we could collaborate to further dismantle the globe, but it's already dismantled. But yeah, we could always bring in more because we know we've been seeing all these, for example, all these people, these globers, what they're pushing, like the one you showed about the stars. They know that the indoctrinated ones will never gonna see it, so they can put any crap and they will just go with it, so that's what will happening with these people. So the same with the C19, so everybody even if you put the truth right in their face, they're not gonna see it. The ones who's gonna see it, they're gonna wake up. So yeah, we are always available for and open for all collaborations to take things ahead.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure
awesome.
already to be here.
Yeah, it really is. It's great. And, you know, I always appreciate when we find this thing. And of course, you know, we already have an excellent, you know, panel on Globebusters, and I think we've done really well over the years. But again, I just want to go deeper. Not only that, I hate the idea, and I know a lot of people say, well, you don't need a model, you don't live on a model. But I would like, you know, my recent thing that I've been talking about lately is actually creating a model. Now, I'm not going to claim that it is the model, but I'm going to put together something plausible. For example, the first thing we started out with was the construct itself, right? If you go biblically, if you look at it biblically, the Bible defines the earth as the dry land has been separated from the waters, right? And there is an area above the firmament and an area below the firmament, and inside the firmament is a kind of a chasm or a chamber type of thing, if you're looking at it biblically. And within that firmament, inside of it are the sun and the stars and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, so what I did, you know, the first thing I started on is I talked about, well, if you look at the electrical construct of what we deal with now, we know, for example, we have 100 volts per meter, you know, running up. It's very consistent field. It's always there. The mainstream would want us to believe that has something to do with cosmic energy that's hitting our shields out there and all this stuff, which is ridiculous. The point is that, you know, there's evidence that shows that there must be like a surface over the top of us that is charged, that contains a charged potential. And that, of course, would then contain the air pressure. So that satisfies our environment. It is what creates our gravity, you know, so to speak. And that's a whole nother model that I'll get into later. But then, you know, I started presenting evidences for why it's there. What are some of the evidences? Well, some of the evidences are, for example, sprites and elves, right? You guys are familiar with sprites and elves and how they work, right? Lightning.
Right.
Okay. So what they do is they will discharge vertically and they will discharge in upward direction. And isn't it ironic that they seem to flatten out at 62 miles or 100 kilometers? So there's this thing where space supposedly begins officially at 62 miles. And I would say, well, that's maybe one thing that they're kind of telling the truth about. So we have that. We also have the phenomenon of using lasers to create what's called guide stars, right? Are you familiar with laser guide stars that the large observatories use for their telescopes? Are you familiar with those at all? Anybody?
I've seen but the one they also try to reflect on from the moon, but you really can never find the real ones like actually working.
Well, yeah, no, the moon is that's the bouncing of the laser. What this is, what these are is they attach these to these large telescopes, right? And they fire it up there. And in order to be able, what their purpose is they fire this laser up and it goes up and it hits something at where? Guess where? About 62 miles. And this supposedly at 62 miles, we have this very steady, constant sodium layer, right? That illuminates when it is hit with a laser beam light, right? And this isn't a joke. It actually does work. And they can also do skywriting on it. You know, there's companies out there that can write things on it. So this supposed sodium layer, they fire these lasers at it. And what it does is it generates a star of a certain magnitude, a certain low magnitude meaning high brightness. Okay. And then what they're able to do is, because they have a reference point of the brightness of that star, then what they can do is they can then physically manipulate the mirrors in the telescope vibrate it slightly so that it can manipulate out the distortions that come in from, like heat rising and things like that cause distortion in it. But the point is that it's at 62 miles. It hits this thing at 62 miles. And also, the other thing that happens at 62 miles, which I find very interesting, is that goes into the area at the very bottom side of it that is called the thermosphere. And they say that the sun, the moon, and the sun, the moon, and the stars are in the thermosphere. And look at this. What do we got in the thermosphere? Let's go to images. Where's the one I'm looking for? I think that's it. Is that it? Well, the thermosphere, anyway, this says 1500 degrees Celsius. It gets as high, if you look at it in Wiki, it says that the thermosphere gets as hot as 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Why would it get so hot in the thermosphere if it's just there? I mean, what is that? What is there to cause it to get so hot, right? There is no reasonable explanation that I have ever read, and yet right there in that boundary of the thermosphere where they say it gets so incredibly hot is exactly where the sun would be in the flat Earth model. I find that much more than just a coincidence, right? So
but also, Bob, remember that at least from the rocket that I show many times before, the temperature go straight down.
That's right. When did it go down after that? I mean, well, you never got that high though, did you? Or did you?
Yeah, after 100 kilometers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they said that, and the thing about that is I'm not so sure anything can go up that high here, so I don't know what to think about that. I really don't. I mean, I acknowledge that piece of, but it certainly never picked up that type of heat, did it? The rocket?
No.
Exactly. Is there any detection? Is there any detection of heat anyway? If it's not, so it's not provable. I don't know. We have to find out. No, if there is any heat.
It's going
exactly
down.
The things are freezing up at altitude, like above Himalaya, about the flying altitude of the planes, and if you go much higher, it's much more cold because being the sun electric.
Yeah, in fact, it produces more high you up, more high you go, more cold becomes, and that is the perfect terrain for electromagnetic levitation and things like that. So for me, it's very clear that and also for gas crystallizations, creating this type of dome to have pressure like our system has. So for me, when I saw that rocket, go fast rocket showing the temperature at 120 kilometers, it's almost 0 Kelvin, and it's crazy, but it create the perfect conditions for have quantum levitation.
Yes,
with
exactly.
No friction, with no loss of energy and things like that. Like we observe in the celestial bodies.
Right, which may be that flip ring point that oh God, I forget the primer fields. David Lapointe talks about in the primer fields. In that flip ring zone magnetically, there's kind of like a 0G type of area up there, and that would be a perfect place to possibly, if NASA knows about it, they could actually hang something up there, right, in that supposed 0G area. But again, speculation, I don't know. But the thing is they give us just enough hints that there are some things here that are just undeniable. Why is it that sprites top out and flatten out at that exact height? Well, and also we know we need pressure and how that all works out, the temperatures that are right there where the sun is supposed to be. I mean, there is so much evidence that points to the idea that thermosphere is there, right? So we went ahead and we built our thermosphere, and now we've got the base structure. Now what we need to do is explain how, using things like the coffee cup caustic and light refraction and what is the coffee cup caustic? It's actually called a have to think about it in a minute. Anyway, the coffee cup caustic is how you can have a point source of light, and it could be reflecting off of a surface and bring light all the way around to the other side of a coffee cup. And
Anisotropic light behavior.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Let me just go ahead and bring up an image here.
Yeah, and as Iru say, that vibration and the heat is only happening very local below in the atmosphere. So the phenomena is very local and very below. That vibration through the ions is not happening above. That's why it's so cold. Even if the sun is above, it's much more cold, and the heat and the light is much more local phenomena. That's why if you from the higher altitude balloon, we see that blue line and the darker up, because it's much more down.
Right.
So here's something that we need to take into consideration: adiabatic cooling rate. Bob, you know this from flight school. The adiabatic cooling rate, we lose 2 degrees per 1,000 feet, and that continues as we move higher. Mm-hmm. If you see what I mean, it gets colder as we ascend. For example, if we look at the average airliner flight altitude, it's 35,000 feet. It's below zero up there. It's absolutely cold up there. There is no ionosphere where there's thousands of degrees. It simply doesn't exist in the real world.
Well, yeah, I agree. Well, and that's, but, I was talking, to be fair, I was talking about the thermosphere, which is, quite a bit higher than that, but still, I don't buy it either. I really don't. And I think
that's what I'm getting at, thermosphere. Yes.
Yeah. So what the things that we do know, by kind of mixing and matching these things, is we can kind of extrapolate, what is going out there, and we can fit in either biblical descriptions of the flat earth or, flat earth descriptions that have been brought out via other cosmologies, like other societies, other countries, other religions, et cetera, And believe me, everybody has a take, especially, ancient India, the Indian cosmology is amazing, right? And I think that they were light years ahead of us in understanding what's going on up there. And we just need to kind of recover that message that we know about. And the other thing that we've been looking at too, guys, is that we have located what ironically appears to be a second sun up there, but that's a whole nother thing we'll have to cover on another day. But that in and of itself is a complete trip, and how we discovered that. So yeah, it's just crazy. So I want to put together something that is a plausible model that at least has evidence, that we can build a preponderance of evidence on to give it at least some plausibility, right? Because honestly, yeah, you could say the globe Earth has plausibility, but not really, because when you really start going down and really looking at it very closely, the globe model falls apart on every single level, right? So it's not like they have anything more than we do. They don't even have a map either at all. Their maps, what they use, the maps that they're using are all different. I have all these different projections. They're all so, none of them work right. Even on a globe, it tells you that it's for entertainment purposes only, not for educational purposes, right? Why would they do that? It would seem to me that the globe would be the easiest thing you could reproduce it on. Well, the reality is what the Earth actually is exactly what they say it is, and it's the one projection that we cannot see actually projected. Which one is that? The WGS-84 flattened ellipsoid datum, right? If you were to extrapolate that and actually project that out, what you would get, I think, would be more along the lines of the Ferguson map. Are you guys familiar with that?
No. Ferguson map, no.
Yes, really? I am familiar with it. It's another projection that shows the continents are much bigger than we're familiar with.
This one, yeah.
This one, yes.
I didn't know that was the name.
This is the Ferguson map. Now here's another thing about this thing that I find interesting, is that the amount of curvature that there is there at the top. Now, we could say theoretically that, yeah, there could be some curvature up there, but we've also said that if there is a curvature, if it continued on the way that they talked about it, it would actually be much, 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 much bigger than our given radius of 3959 miles, right?
Exactly.
It would have to be much bigger. But when you look at this, so you have a little bit of that curvature in the top, and there are probably places in this area where we would get some variation in measuring, curvature if it's something like this. But they are very careful to say that it is a flattened ellipsoid, and they also give the flattening rate at an incredibly high flattening rate. Something like 80%. It's like, what the hell does this thing look like? How could that possibly look like a globe if they're flattening it that much?
Exactly.
The answer is, well, if it's something like this, So I don't know. That's the kind of stuff I like to put together. That's me.
Good enough.
So, all right, guys. So,
I can add, Bob. I can add to you. I can add to it right now. Isaiah 40:22. Let's look at the Hebrew. Isaiah 40:22. It says, "It is He, meaning the Lord, that sitteth upon the circle of the earth." But that's in English. The Hebrew, instead of using the word circle, it uses the word kug, spelled Khug. Now, kug, by definition in Hebrew, means a coin-shaped object with topography.
Oh, no way.
It doesn't define that topography. So that topography could be what you're observing here in this map, if you see what I mean. It shows that the surface is a circle, but it has topography on it. It's undefined topography. There you go. There's the answer.
Wow. That's amazing.
Also, let me extend this. The Hebrew is actually less descriptive than the Spanish. If you look this up, you can translate anything online, right? If you look in the Spanish, it says this: "It is He that sitteth upon the bóveda of the earth." Bóveda in Spanish means a vault. A vault means a circular floor with a dome-shaped cover overhead. So therefore, the Spanish is even more specific than the Hebrew. The Hebrew says a coin-shaped space on the bottom, on the floor, but the Spanish adds the dome to it. So there you go. Combine all these, and we've got our picture.
Yep.
The rakia. The rakia.
The rakia overhead.
That's it, buddy.
The kug, the circular coin-shaped object with topography on the bottom. There you go.
That's correct.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So you can see why it bothers me that we get heckled that we don't have a model. And it's like, what? So what if we don't have a model? But like I said, the Globers don't have a model either. And in fact, their model is just utterly ridiculous and stands up to zero scrutiny. I can provide evidence for what I say,
Absolutely. Flat Earth has a model, and NASA, my avatar photo is the model of NASA. It's a dome shape. It's a solid object, solid circular object with a dome over it. That is the model. How could they say there's not a flat Earth model? That's it. It comes straight from the Bible, understood properly, right?
Right. Well, because they don't think the Earth is flat, for one, and also their big thing is it doesn't work with the latitude and longitude, and it's like it was never meant to accommodate latitude and longitude.
Not with their latitude and longitude. Of course, there's latitude and longitude. You can put that on anything when you understand it properly.
That's right. All maps are flat projection. All aviation maps, they're more akin to a grid system, really. When they get down to the nuts and bolts, they use a grid system on it. And so, just so they've created this latitude longitude system, and yes, that they can navigate by it. Whatever, that's nothing more than an adaptation. Another way of telling the story, right? And a fictitious way at that.
Well, there you go.
So it's
absolutely.
Yeah, it is utterly ridiculous, and that's why I kind of want to go there and just create something that we can work on and call our own, if you will. And I don't give a crap if people call me an idiot.
Well, you're not. You're researching, you're observing, you're testing, and repeating. That's not an idiot. That's a scientist.
Yeah,
that's the real definition of science, right there.
Yeah, and I will.
You might be an idiot in their playbook. We might be idiots in their playbook, but guess what? So is Jesus Christ. We are following the science of Jesus Christ and the Bible as recorded millennia ago.
Right. And I may not be able to put every single thing through the scientific method. But my thing that I work off of, which I think is every bit as valid, is the preponderance of evidence. You get enough things that support something, then you really start better taking a closer look at it, because there's a lot of possibility, more possibilities that make it look like it's true, right? So
I think that's why it's important to take in consideration all cosmologies, because according to my research, every cosmology has things to decode, that everything is important to complete the picture. So to make the model, we should consider that it needs to be decoded. It's put as myths, but there's so much there to look into, and every cosmology has that.
In fact, if you studied history of the religions, everything comes from Sumeria, from Sumer. I don't know how to pronounce in English.
Sumer.
And especially the Bible and the Torah is taken from Babylon's, from the highest priest of Babylon. That is why we talk about the flat Earth in those books. It's literally taken from those higher priests, which at that time was the scientist, if you want to see in that way. But then you have all the American indigenous culture that also talk the same things. And we already know that everyone out there know that the Earth is flat. The only people that took that and reverse is the Vatican people. In fact, remember that it was a time when they start burning books and rewrite it. That was, the Inquisition time, when they obligate people to give away his books, and they took all quote unquote books and information, and a lot of them they keep it, they translate it, they rearrange things, and the rest they burn it. So we don't have any record history for real. It's very hard to go back in time just reading lines of text. It's very hard.
Yep, I agree. Well said, Eero, for sure. So yeah, and of course, I'm sure you guys have been following up on other world events about this whole Tartaria and the mud floods and stuff. And it just looks like the more we find out that all of this stuff is coming to light, that everything we've been lied to about, everything, our history especially. It appears that we've already had free energy, and our technological days are behind us, right? We've actually regressed moving forward in a lot of technological fields. And I think that when you start becoming aware of that, and especially when you start looking at what they have termed antiquitech, right? This antique type of free energy and other technologies that apparently was in use 100, 200 years ago, you're just like, WTF, right? How did they hide this? How did they get away with hiding this to this level? How did they get away with making the whole world think that, supposedly we've known that the Earth was a ball since, for over 2,000 years, when in fact they were still teaching in our school system 80 years ago.
Yeah, but remember that all the education system came from the Vatican, from the west part of the world. They took all the educational system. That is why they can do whatever they want. Until these days, when people start wake up and use the system against the same system.
Exactly. That's what we're doing. We are literally returning truth to science and science to Jesus Christ and the Holy Creator. Voila. That's what we're doing.
There was many curves that needed to be flattened, for example, from the 80s. Yeah. There was the fall of Berlin, and there was the rise of Windows, so Netscape, many things happened, and we have reached to a point in technology that we have everything what we need. Every person, every individual right now have the power to be a business, a corporation, or an organization, or anything they want. Everything you need is there. So, and the technology allows us to get together, get the right information, and put the message out, so that's what we have done with Flatten the Curve, in a way that came to the point that we could create something without depending on big industry, on big promotion, big So all this needs to be happen. I think we are in the right point to make this go ahead and bring the truth out so that people can literally see, because now everything is accessible to everybody, so we hope it happens.
Yep, I fully agree. And we have the app, so we have like a secret weapon. Awesome. Okay. Well, guys, this has really been amazing thus far. I think I'm going to start winding it up here, but I want to go around one more time, see if anybody on the panel has any questions for you guys. And then I will be putting all of their contact information in the show notes, and I still have to get some of that from you guys, so you guys can link to them. But we will definitely be working together from this point forward, I have a feeling, and I'm just looking forward to it, because I love it when people get together that are driven by a very similar purpose, and I think we definitely are. Because I know I have an insatiable curiosity about this. And, I gave up on trying to convince ballers long ago. That's just a lost cause. And it's a methodology that's put there to drive people away quite on purpose. And I'm just not going to support it. So, that's why I think we need to just work together from now on and, screw the deniers. And if they want to say, well, then preach to your echo chamber, well, whatever. Because you don't have to be in an echo chamber for other people to listen and, listen with an open mind. And if they actually have questions that are reasonable and not, trying to draw you into some sort of a fight with, oh, I got you, and I know something you don't, which is exactly what they try to do. And ballers, if you think we're not wise to that, boy, are you dumb. Give us a break. So that's why I just don't deal with them anymore. And to each his own. Some people's thing is debate, and me, I just like to present what I find and what I learn and put it out there for other people's consideration. And, I really want to go somewhere with it. So,
Bob, this
yes.
Preaching to the choir is the most important thing we have, because the choir needs to learn. And all the stuff that I've, go out there when I'm on these other shows, I've learned from Globebusters, from Jeran, from, all these other shows out there. So we all do our part. And then when you say the ballers, there's like, you can put ballers in a couple of categories. There's people out there, like a guy I just interviewed the other day. He was a baller, but he didn't know it. No one's put him up to anything. The ones you're talking about, like, I don't even say they're made up names. I like the term anti-flat earthers. They're not ballers. They're literally anti-flat earth deceivers, disgusting. And I don't even want to say human beings, because they're not even human beings. They're horrible. And if everyone just ignored them, then they wouldn't really have anything. The problem is too many people are engaging them. And
Yes.
do whatever you want. And
So sorry, David. I just did that with my last video. So
what did you do?
I engaged with them again.
Yeah, wait, you know what? Wait, hold on. I have to correct myself. Occasionally you have to engage. Occasionally you do. But like Ben, when you engage them, you destroy them. You know why? Because it's an unfair fight. They're fighting on the side of ridiculousness, and we're fighting on the side of common sense and on natural observations. And you're really good at putting it together, because just the way you put stuff together and explain things, and your videos are hysterical and educating. So again, some of my best videos came from trolls. One of my favorite videos is Red's Rhetoric saying, I rose my drone up and saw the sunrise again. I saw the sunset again. And I completely destroyed them in the video. So again, occasionally when they poke the bear too much, you got to poke them back.
Right.
But screw those anti-flat earthers. They're idiots, right? And everyone, as I said at the beginning of the show, we have the advantage. It's literally like, I'm trying to think. You're showing up at a fight with a machine gun, and they're showing up with a friggin' spoon. Okay, they've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. I don't even give them a spoon, because a spoon you might be able to block a bullet. All right, they've got nothing.
Yes. The thing that really bothers me, David. I'm sorry. The thing that really bothers me is, for example, when we did the very first rebuttal to Professor Dave, right? And we got 50, 60, 70,000 hits, something like on that. And then he did a rebuttal. Well, at that time, YouTube decided that they were going to, promote it everywhere. Now it's got 11 million hits.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's really difficult to deal with is you just get absolutely inundated. And I know Ben knows about this with people coming in your comment section. Yeah, Professor Dave totally destroyed you. And they don't even know that, somebody made a 10-part series debunking everything he said. And if I go ahead and do the debunking myself, which I'm going to, then, it's never going to get anywhere near that amount of publicity. However, if I do it right and people see the logic in what I'm saying, then they'll see that Professor Dave is just a pompous ass and really doesn't have any idea what he's talking about.
Right. We can't stop the way that YouTube promotes videos. We can't stop Professor Dave or not Professor Dave from doing the crap that he does. All we do is make a good response. In the app under the web button, I have the debunking the debunkers, and I took all of the hit pieces that people did response videos to. They're in there. So when you find somebody that what about this Professor Dave, you just find the video in there that addresses that video and you send them there, and then if they're really seeking an answer, they watch it and you've converted another person. So again, the Professor Dave goes out there to 11 million people. Well, I would say 5 million of those people maybe never even heard about flat earth. Now they heard it, and now they're going to look, and now they're going to question one of us. And if one of us takes the time to feed them one of the proper debunking videos of the nonsense, then we've converted another person. It's happening every day, and so many people are doing it. So instead of letting it bring you down, let's turn their nonsense into common sense.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. You're absolutely right. I just know that Ben's experienced this. It just, when you get these clowns that just come in and all I do is delete them anyway. So they never see the light of day. But
just one good response video is all you need. And then you move on and then you forget about it. But
yeah.
So
it just bothers me that humanity is so blind.
They're not humans, Bob. They're not human. You got to remember that. Okay.
They're not. They're algorithms. If that, or they're paid.
I would feel bad for them, but I'm not going to bring myself down to that level. They're horrible, disgusting beings here, probably soulless at this point, and I couldn't even imagine being them for 2 seconds. That's why, like when you had Fight the Fat Shirt in your chat last week, I literally, when I typed a message to him, I had to go take a shower because it was disgusting.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep. So okay, all right. Well,
there you go. Sorry for the rant.
Oh, no worries. I mean, that's I'm just glad that we found each other. I really am, and I think that going forward that we're going to be able to put out even better stuff. And I'm sure you're aware of some of the technical problems that you had, that people complained about, kind of like the audio and stuff. But things like that, it's kind of a learning curve, and it's, and I'm sure that you'll probably do better on it next time, right? But overall, I thought the video was pretty good. It's fairly, it's informing, and I like the way that everybody talked so authoritatively in it, because that's something that people really relate to, is that when people are speaking authoritatively about something, they relate to that. They have a tendency to believe it more also. You know what I mean? Even if it's complete bullshit, they'll believe it. But, whatever.
Talk slow and act like you know what you're talking about, which the liars do, and everybody believes them for some reason.
I know, it's crazy.
Because they don't do the research.
Yep. So
so being a whistleblower video, like David put it really nice, a whistleblower video. So there are some issues with the audio, but the people have to know that it's a whistleblower video, and it's not done in a studio with your crisp quality audio. So there are some, but that some have been contacts would have been for one time. So we had to work with what we have for sure, but we're going to be making it better for the next ones. But from whom you want to listen about then the professionals who have dedicated their life to their work and to all these vessels that runs and all the instruments that work from their own mouth, their own testimony, and their own understanding and their own journey So what could be more natural and more real than that? And that's been put out there. So there are many even Globebusters are waking up with this. So
Yep.
We hope it continues. Yep.
So a little bit more on that audio. There was one comment we got from somebody who appreciated that audio, the very first audio that went really low. That occurred because of the nature of the audio. John, our pilot, John Nicholson, received a call while he was piloting the aircraft. He got a call, so the call came through his radio, which automatically reduced the volume of the incoming call. That was why the volume was so low. It wasn't a problem with the technical components inside the studio. It was the nature of the very recording itself. Because of the nature of the recording, he took that call in flight, which made it that much more authentic. It wasn't a problem with the audio. It was the nature of the radio transmission. So that made it even much more authentic with authority. So there you go. It enhanced our video rather than detracted from it.
Yeah, I can understand. Well, to me, if you're talking about the phone conversation, to me it just came across a little bit muffled. And I can speak from experience. When you get older like me, it's harder to separate muffled and people talking over each other, or separating even background music. So it's a lot easier when you're younger, just like your eyesight, same thing. So like everything else, your hearing goes to hell when you get older. So it is what it is, though. And I just want, I'm one of the very few, I wouldn't say I'm one of the very few perfection. No, boomers. I'm one of the, it just seems like more boomers have a tendency to reject this kind of stuff, even though I'm surprised at how many boomers, that come around. The demographics that we get are amazing. People going up to 70 years old are listening to this stuff, which absolutely blows me away. So makes me
the important is the message. The important is the message, Bob, that what is inside, then how it's arrived, and how is it put. Sometimes it's just the way it needs to be, and that's how it's there. So yeah, we all are learning, and we all are getting better with time. So that's a learning process. We are never going to stop learning and doing better. So that will always be our.
Yep. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody on the panel hit you with one more question if they want to, and vice versa. One more go around, then we're going to call it a show. And I would be happy to come on one of your shows, Vikka, and just carry this forward, because Dave knows this, Ben knows, we're all in. And we've been doing this for 7 years, and we are diehard flat earthers. So
you all are welcome. Every one of you, David, Iru, yourself, Tibu, everyone. Yeah, we all are ready for collaboration. We could have some amazing discussions and conversations too. Yeah, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go ahead and start with you, Ben. Do you have anything you want to ask them about, or just say to them about the movies?
I just want to again say thank you again for doing that. With my legal background, for me, my videos, it's about presenting a case for the flat Earth. And as an attorney, you hire experts to confirm those facts that you're presenting, and that's kind of what you're doing. Is you're providing a list of experts that you can cite to proving the case for the flat Earth. And I think that's vital for so many people to see these experts that are should be considering the rotation of the Earth, should be considering the curvature, and they never do. I mean, those facts prove that the Earth is flat, and I just again thank you, and I'm very happy at the success of that documentary that you've made, and I hope that I'm looking forward to the new one. So again, thank you.
All right, well put,
awesome,
Ben.
brother.
Thank you very much. All right, and Iru, have any last comments or questions?
Yes, I was looking the other day in the Banjo Brazil Flat Earth channel. There was some pilots or some expertise people in
Yeah,
aviation
Eddie's.
talking.
Uh-huh.
Okay, talking about the rate of descent, which is another thing that I didn't know it about it, and this is a nice, those kind of indirect proof of flat Earth and why they name planes with the word aeroplane, because they
Right.
are flying over a plane, of course. And then I will really like to see, guys, you have a lot of experience, a lot of resources, and maybe in the next movie or documentary you can include asking for people to help, of course, to find to get the financial part, but trying to do something inside of a plane, doing for yourself, like maybe going from Australia to Chile or something like that, or using some kind of instrument on the plane and play with levels, with gyroscope, things like that, not just on the table in your garage or home or lab, but also inside the plane while it's moving, while it's flying, not just filming the co-pilot cabin, but disassemble the gyroscope on the flight and show that kind of things, because not maybe for everyone, but for the new ones, and also from people that maybe have some doubts about it, looking, playing with the instrument in the field, if you want to see in that way, could be something much provocative. I remember a really low quality equivalent, but remember the guy, I forget the name of Dar- the our friend, I forget the name of the guy who take a flight with the level, simply as that. And
That's Dave.
the,
Not no, not to Dave. What that's oh
Daryl,
crap.
I
Daryl,
forget the
Daryl,
name.
Daryl. Yes,
Yeah,
Daryl.
okay. And that simple thing, create a wave of discussion, and even that took on mass media, things like that. So could be a really provocative tactic, trying to, what I'm trying to say is do something that you can bring some kind
Agree,
of
agree.
white paper.
I agree what you're trying to say. It all depends on how the community reacts and the community collaborates. Everything is possible. Always going up a level and getting it to much more detail. And what you are saying of really like recording all these people doing their jobs and the experiment, everything is possible. It all depends how we all collaborate, not only as a team to put it forward, but also as the community all together, as you said, because
Yeah, exactly. And thanks, of course, for all the time and the effort you take it to present this type of information. So come with me for anything.
Awesome.
thank you, brother.
And by the
Same, I
way,
would say that too.
and thank you for everything. I will say this: that the rate of descent, Eddie put that together based on. This is Rob again. Eddie Alankar, he put the video together based on my discussion. He did that of himself. We didn't ask him to. He went ahead and make that. He made that animation, which is perfect. That's exactly
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
need. It's something
Out of
different
our life.
to
Yeah, out of our
describe.
conversation from our life. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from our live discussion. Yes, from a webcast that we did. And by
Yep.
the way, I've got 5 or 10 additional factoids that we can put. All that does, I just want to throw this out. All I did was take rate of descent and applied it to the 8 inches per mile squared. That's all I did, and that's what you're looking in that video. I just applied the 8 inches per mile squared to the speed of the airplane, 500 miles an hour, as it supposedly travels around the curve of the Earth. It's got to have that 2,770 rate of feet per minute rate of descent, which is absurd. And that's what you saw in that video. Thanks for pointing that out.
No, that was amazing, because sometimes when we trying to analyze the spin of the Earth underneath the plane, we only said that when you're trying to land on the ground, and you just pointed out like, okay, the surface underneath might be rotating whatever meter per second. but you take it more specific, more technical with the math involved and things like that. So it's another addition to that factor that there is nothing spinning. you combine the curvature and the descent, the landing, the landing fact of the plane, and that was really nice.
Yes, sir. And once again, when we put the globe concept, when we put the math to the globe, it fails. It fails every time. There you go.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, that was Daryl Marble that we were trying to think
Daryl
of.
Marble, yeah. Thank you so much. I forget for 1 second and yeah. Hello to Marble. Yeah.
There you go. It's crazy, but yeah. So yeah, but when you look at the curvature and all the things like that, it becomes pretty obvious. It's like, yeah, pilots have a standard rate of descent drop of 500 foot per minute. Doesn't mean that you have to go that fast or that slow, but that's usually a comfortable rate of descent. You don't want to freak out the passengers too much. And when you figure that, when you look at this, like this chart that I got up here, and you're in an aircraft, the 518.75, if you're doing cruise speed for like a 737, which this would be, then you are here it is spelled out on how much time and how much foot per minute drop you're going down, right? So if you're going for 2 minutes at that speed, your curvature is 199, basically 200 feet. Foot per minute drop is 99.6 at 518 miles per hour, and on and on and up. And as you see, as it goes up, the more you go up, these average foot per minute drops that the Earth is supposedly dropping away from you is outrageous.
It's simple math. It's simple math, isn't it? There you go. There you go.
The problem is most people can't do simple math. When I ask somebody, if you're traveling at a mile per second for 1 trillion seconds, how many miles have you gone? Nobody can get the answer.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. It's the way we're taught. Since I'm talking, I'll just go real quick. Guys, I want to thank you for making that documentary. I know you can never get anything perfect. I had no problems with the film. I loved it. It's woken up a lot of people. And I know that it takes time to get things perfect and get it right. But I figure, and I could speak for the rest of the audience here, I think, if you guys eliminated 4 hours from your sleep every night, you can get this done this year. Okay. You can get it done 30% faster.
Exactly.
Okay. So, sleeping's for ballers. Let's go. Let's get the next one done.
Thanks, David. Thanks for all the promotion. It's awesome, brother. Yeah, we don't want to hurry, David. We wanna get it right.
I know.
We
very impatient.
Yeah, so we wanna like the same impact and much maybe double. So we wanna give that time, because in hurry we just put up anything, and that's not what we want to do. So. And there's so many details also with the new ones, our new collaborators, and the more collaborators we're gonna have. So anyway, thank you, David, for all the promotion. That's really, really appreciated, and even to Bob for sharing, brother. So the word needs to go out. So
absolutely, I was happy to do
absolutely.
it. And one other thing,
if you don't mind, let me throw this out. Vikka is our one-man production show. All we did, the pilots, the ship navigators, and everybody else, all we did was send video clips and voice clips to Vikka. Vikka is our production manager. So thanks to Vikka for putting this together. It's all on him.
Awesome. Well, you did a great job, Vikka. And
it's a team project. It looks like, it's a team project. There are lots of people involved. If you only count the participants and the production teams, the music, the narrations, everything, the structure, it's so much of work involved in there. That's why we are speaking about the years. So it's a team effort, and we all are really glad to be a part of it. And I always mention that it was a collaboration for the community. We never intended to make money on this, and we only wanted this truth to be out. So it was a collaboration for every person. every person involved, people from different part of the world getting together and making this happen at this moment of time where we need it to happen. And just as I said, it needed to happen in the right time with the right energy, the right people, the right confidence together. And it just manifested. So from here, we continue.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, I think so. Dave, are you done then? Do you have anything else for them, or?
No, that's it. Everybody just, the thing I find about Flat Earth, which is amazing, is everyone that sees it, it becomes, for lack of a better word, obsessed with it, because it's the one thing that you don't just stick in the closet. You're into something, and at a certain point of your life, you get it, you use it all the time, then you put it away. Flat Earth doesn't go away. Flat Earth is here every day. It affects us all the time. And those of you that are out there that are actively doing something to help wake up your friends and family and neighbors and strangers, I think that is the work that we're supposed to be doing here. We're supposed to be showing people where they live, who they are, what they are, rather than let them live in the matrix. And the matrix is the heliocentric system. It's a prison for your mind. So everyone out there that's doing anything to wake up anybody, God bless you.
Yep. Awesome. Amen to that. Okay. So either Vikka, and I guess we lost Mark. He had to leave. That's fine. So either Vikka or Rob, do you have any closing remarks you want to make to the panel before we close it out?
And Vikka, you want to go ahead, or I will?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thanks. I want to say thanks to the Globebuster group and Dave. Definitely a solid partnership. Pleasantly happy to go into this together. Absolutely looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to your research on gravity. I say gravity and the downward. Why this downward motion, and can we reverse it? And it all has to do with the ether and the electromagnetic field that really does surround us. I can't wait to learn more about it. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad you've done this research. I was wondering if anybody had ever done any serious research on it. Sounds like you have, and you have some solid material that will enlighten us.
And I have been attacked. I've been attacked as a shill, by flat earthers for it, because they don't, and I get it. Look, they misuse gravity. They totally misrepresented everything is about, but to deny that force is there, to me, is ludicrous. And because it is there, and none of the math works. Nothing works without it being there. And it's obvious. And not only is it there, like I said, not only does it make that preferred direction of down, but it also causes things to accelerate. And by the way, that is what got Jeran.
Yes.
He's like, well, yeah, that's the interesting part, is I could see maybe, well, you could use it goes down just because, but why does it accelerate? Right. That's something that you have to take into consideration.
And Bob, the videos, the couple videos that Zack has made, the one with the balloons where he changes the charge and bam, it gets heavier, right? Yep. That's a game changer right there. That and then all of the electric, the tinfoil that you put a negative charge on it goes up. This is provable, testable, repeatable, and there's no denying it. There's absolutely no denying it at this point. And then we all agree, for those of you that don't believe in the downward force, we still all agree in buoyancy and density, but buoyancy and density don't work without somebody saying, hey, down is this way. Okay.
Right.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with observing that heavier objects proceed downwards. We know that's true, but there's nothing wrong with asking why. Why is this? What is the mechanism that makes it go downwards? And that's what Bob is doing. That's what we're asking. Absolute science it is. Now, final thought here, final comment. Yes, we know the Earth is not a spinning ball. It's a motionless circular plane. Yes, it is. Guess what? But that's only one component of the truth of Jesus Christ and the Creator. The flat Earth leads us to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ leads us to the Creator and the kingdom of the Elohim. And that's our ultimate objective. Jesus Christ gets us there. The way, the truth, and the life. That is the ultimate truth right there. That's my final statement.
All righty then. All right. Well said. All right, gentlemen. Well, again, thank you so much. I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank our audience and all the super chatters out there that have given us super chats. you know what? Let me read some of those actually, because there may be some questions in there from. Okay, so let me go through these real quick. Tomo says, "Great show." I'm sorry, what?
Vika. I don't know if Vika did Vika get some final comments?
Oh, I don't know. Vika, oh, gosh, if you didn't, Vika, go ahead if you have anything to say. My bad.
All I want to say that thank you to every one of you who are doing this effort to bring the truth ahead, and we would all love to collaborate. And thank you, David. Thank you, Iru. Thank you, Ben, and everyone in the Globebusters team. And thank you for sharing and uploading and promoting. And it was definitely an amazing conversation, discussion here, and we will look forward. And a big thank you to all our listeners too.
Awesome. All right. Beautiful. Okay. So, oops, hang on a second. Let me get back to where I was. Okay. So let me just say, throw out some thank yous for the super chats. Tomo, thank you for the super chat. It says, great show. Thank you very much, Murray Cole, for the tip. Matt Prince, same to you. Amir Faslik says, one of the best episodes. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Steve Matthews says, so happy to hear from the creators of Flatten the Curve. Thanks for having them on the show. Oh, we're very welcome, Steve. Glad to do it. And just happy we could make it happen for you. And let me double check and make sure that's all we have on Rockfin. Oh, wait. All right. I think that's about it. And then we go over to, let me just run over to YouTube and I'll pull those up really quick. Supers. I hate the new layout of the back room for YouTube. It makes me crazy, but whatever. So thank you so much, Salvatore Papadio, for the super chat, commercial sound and video. Love you, Bob, Cami, and all the Globebusters. Congrats, Austin and Kai. Yes, Austin and Kai got married yesterday. That's awesome. And that cuts it from there. So there you have it, guys. We're all caught up on those. And again, thank you, everybody, for doing this for us. We will be back on Wednesday with a Rockfin show with the new revision of Globebusters called Globebusters Tech. And we hope to see you there. Very much so. So until then, everybody, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind because there's truth inside. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.